2020, there was a massive bull run. All of a sudden, you will see all over your social media feeds on how you can make money quickly trading options or futures. Everyone was starting groups. People who literally had known nothing about trading started groups, and all of a sudden, they were making millions and millions of dollars. So they say. Then we hit 2021 when the market shifted and quickly realized that a lot of these people were just gurus, con artists. So you can imagine how hard it is to try to find a real life trader because they say that 95% of people who get into the space of trading are not profitable and typically do not succeed. The failure rate is higher than most other industries. Think about that. 95% of people fail, only 5% succeed. And those 5% will likely not be online on social media or Twitter and talk about how many gains they've made or how many great trades they've had, or how you should join their group to also get 100% to 1,000% return in a single day. No, most of those 5%ers, they work on Wall Street for legitimate firms and brokerages, trading for them, not online and not on Twitter. They definitely don't have time to promote their business in the Discord. But every once in a while, you actually find a real life trader. And I've been fortunate enough to find Jimmy, who runs Trading Decoded. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting down today with a real life trader. Someone who isn't extravagant, who doesn't like to show off his wealth, who doesn't market, and most importantly, someone I deem as a true, transparent trader. So ladies and gentlemen, enjoy today's interview with Trading Decoded. Hello everyone and welcome to Uncultured Currency. Jimmy, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Yeah, just living my best life, brother.
It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to do this for nearly a year because our buddy Kevin was supposed to come out. We were supposed to meet and do this in person. That was the goal, to try to do it. Like, you were supposed to be my first guest, but I'm sitting down face to face. But it didn't happen, and I got impatient. I'm like, this is the time. I think people should know who you are.
We're still gonna meet face to face, though.
We are. We were this close, by the way.
Yes.
I was down south. We were supposed to meet up, and I ended up in the hospital, unfortunately. So we did not get to meet. So did you think I was faking it?
No, I did.
Oh.
And you didn't have to send me pictures, even though you did. Um,
Okay.
I've never actually met you in person, but I could tell you that just through the conversations we've had, you're a pretty genuine dude, and honestly, that's the kind of people I want to surround myself with anyway. So I was excited to meet you. You're only 3 hours away from me, so it's not like it's even impossible to meet you. But we'll make it happen one day or another.
Yeah, no, because I was worried. I was like, man, I told this guy, like, hey, I'm coming now. We made plans and everything, and I end up in the ER, and I'm like, this probably his way just to try to get out of it. So,
You were literally 10 minutes away from me too.
I know. I was very disappointed. Trust me, my wife was very disappointed too. I missed out pretty much on. I just had one day to spend with the family reunion. But fortunately enough, everyone came up to us this past week, so everyone just left the house yesterday. There were like, how many people was it? It's at least like 15 people at my house every day. The people who stayed at night, I think, were at least about 7 people stayed at night in my house, but it was 15 to 20 people in the house at one time. So it's very interesting. Well, Jimmy, listen, you have a Discord and a YouTube channel called Trading Decoded. Tell people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm no different than everybody else who's out there, to be honest with you. I spent my younger years spending money like it didn't matter, never planning for my future, never caring about what was going to come as we age in life, right? And then life happens. So ultimately, you realize, usually when it's too late, that you really should have done things differently as a youngster, right? Saving, just understanding money in general. And somewhere during my normal 9 to 5 life, I realized that what I'm doing is not going to support my ability to retire in the future, right? I worked in the printing industry, and printing in general is a dying business. I mean, it could have been gone 10 years ago. Let's be honest. I mean, we don't need paper products. And, truth be told, everything could be made digital and you never have to worry about it, right? So not only is it a dying industry, but I was at the top of the industry. Like, I wasn't going to make a dime more. And unfortunately, especially with inflation and everything going up, when you're living at paycheck expenses, if anything gets out of balance, you're in
You're
trouble,
done.
right?
You're
Yeah.
done.
So, much like the majority of the country, whether you're a six-figure earner or a five-figure earner, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and that's the sad reality. And it took me coming to the brink of potentially losing my home, potentially I had my cars repossessed, even though I got them all back. But at the end of the day, you know, uh, it just wasn't enough, even though I was doing side work and just trying to make ends meet, just like so many other people. All right. So long story short, I decided in COVID, just like everybody else, to basically give trading a try. Right. And I was in a unique situation to have never actively actually traded, but I had an IRA from a previous employer that I kind of just didn't worry about. And we were getting stimmy money, right? So just like
Yeah.
everybody, we throw the stimmy money in there. And I was fortunate enough to work all through COVID. So the
Yeah.
stimulus money was just extra money. And not that the market was the right place to put it, but it's really what got me into trading. And once I joined a trading community, I paid to be in that community. It was more of a swing trading style place called uh, what's the hell the name of the place? Charlie, um, Zip Trader U. Okay,
Oh,
um,
okay.
yeah. So I joined Zip Trader U, and he the things he taught was good, but what most people forget about is the protection side of trading, right? We never stop ourselves out of bad trades. We just hold them and hope. And, then I ended up in that situation, ended up losing basically $12,000, right? And that's when I started to think, you know what? This is not for me. It didn't suit my personality. I like hands on. I like day to day trading. I like, instant gratification. And that's ultimately how I transformed into day trading, right? It started with swing trading, then it went to spreads trading on short time frames, and then it went to day trading. I specifically only trade SPY using now SPX contracts. And basically because of the market conditions and the way they are, we're scalping at this point. I mean, there's too many rogue candles that pop out of nowhere that I don't feel comfortable holding trades for long periods of time. But end of the day, I'm finding a lot of success in scalping. So are the people in our community. And I think people are becoming more and more comfortable with that because of the uncertainty of the market currently. So that's where I'm at. I left my 9 to 5 job in September of 2022 to become a full time trader and somebody who's trying to help other people do the same thing. That's really my goal. I was able to do it, so I also honestly believe that other people have the ability to do it, and I've taken it upon myself to try and help other folks get there, right? And that's what Trading Decoded is.
Yeah. Let's rewind back a little bit though. So you were saying that you had your cars repossessed and you were living paycheck to paycheck, right?
Mhm.
You mentioned by the way, you're like, even if you're a six figure earner, you're still living paycheck to paycheck. That is not necessarily true. Like, most people don't make six figures, but I get what you're saying. Is like your expenses goes up depending on your lifestyle and everything. But my question to you is, was it personal finance that got you the lack of personal finance that got you in a situation where you were essentially over leveraged in the job that you had and what you were bringing in versus what was going out?
Uh, yes, but statistically speaking, 87% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, regardless of their income. It's not the right way. And it's irresponsible. My old boss used to say to me all the time, "It's not my fault you have 4 kids. It's not my fault you bought the house that you did. It's not my," and he's right, right? I don't
Yeah.
need the newest iPhone. I don't need the fastest internet. I don't need a new car, right? And that's where society kind of falls off the rails. And finally having, truth be told, I didn't change my ways. I changed my income. Right? And that's the thing, right? So you have to either give up what you enjoy to make your monetary or financial situation better, or you've got to make more money, right? There's only two paths.
Yep.
And so instead of me giving up, because there wasn't much in the way of giving up. Like I said, I have 4 kids. I don't live extravagant, right? I have a house that is required to be the size that it is to take care of 4 children. And so I couldn't cut, I could eat out less. I can do things that would bring it down just a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, my homeowner's insurance doubled. So I went from a $2,700 a month mortgage to $3,600 a month. How do you fix that? You know what I mean? Like that's something that I could cut out all the extra eating that I was doing and still be strapped for cash, right? So
Hmm.
it really came down to a how can I make more money, right? I was already doing side jobs. I was trying to make ends meet. And my real passion actually lied in having done what I did to make the money that I'm able to make now day trading translated into me wanting to help other people get out of the same situation I was in. And that's how Trading Decoded really started, right? It started as I was just like everybody else. I was struggling like the majority of Americans, and I was able to get out of that mess. And this is how I did it. And I want to try and help other people do the same thing. And that's kind of how Trading Decoded started, and that's where we're at right now. So,
When when I came across Trading Decoded, how long have you been doing it at that point?
so I started Trading Decoded in, I would say, pretty much the beginning of 2022. No, probably started in October of 2021.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
So I was a few months. I was like a few months after you started is when I came in because so for everyone who is watching, full disclosure, so I met Jimmy when your group was only $10 a month and you had a 9 to 5 and you were working literally full time and being in a group the entire time. And I know a lot of people will sit here like, what do you charge now?
I charge $100 a month.
Okay. And I know people are gonna say like, why the hell should I pay Jimmy, you, Trade Decoded, $100, right? Um, can you tell people how you even got to that price point? Because initially it was $10, and which is you, your
Right.
friends, and a small group of people, right? So
Yep.
tell people how this actually end up working out for you.
Okay, so initially, and truth be told, I started trading an IRA that was almost like found money, and unfortunately, I was using that money very irresponsibly, taking very risky trades, momentum trading, large positions, uh, big numbers. Right? I mean, let's be honest. It worked out for me, but it's out of the ability for most people, right? Because most people don't have found money. Most people don't have large chunks of money just sitting over there doing nothing about that they essentially forgot about, right?
Mhm.
So when I was doing this on a smaller scale, I was finding that it worked. And then when I got to a point where my account wouldn't allow me to to push the limits of how far can this go, that's when I switched over to the IRA and started to trade within the IRA that had more buying power that allowed me to buy larger positions and that just perpetuated this oh my god it's kind of ridiculous how this scales, right? Fast forward a little bit, that account did very very well, but it was it's a combination of a lack of concern for the preservation of that money, meaning no fear, and the buying power available to me while I was trading that account. Okay, now that is not a way that I would ever recommend people to trade. It's just not. It's reckless, it's scary, and you could lose all of it at any point in time. I mean, you want to talk about the ultimate YOLO. It was almost like every trade was just this massive, let's see what happens. And if it fails, oh well, right? The problem was the numbers that it was generating was what was attracting the original people who wanted to know what I was doing. Okay. And at that point, you're attracting folks for the wrong reason. I didn't know it at the time, but I quickly realized it very, very, very short time into Trading Decoded. So I always say there's a Trading Decoded revision 1 and a Trading Decoded revision 2. Revision 1 was big numbers and people were chasing the big numbers. I know you and I have talked about similar situations, right? There's
Mhm.
there's ways to get a certain crowd and there's ways to get the right crowd.
Correct.
Um,
Yep.
and for me, even though in the beginning Training Decoded wasn't developed for the purposes of a business, it was a here, I'm not allowed to talk about this in this trading group. I'm just going to create my own over here so people could see what's going on and I'll explain what I'm doing. That's how Trading Decoded actually started. Well, when that started, it was totally free, right? And people were telling me, Jimmy, you need to be charging something for this information and for your time. And that is where the Patreon and $10 a month actually started. Okay.
Mm.
And as that started to grow and I needed moderators and everything else to keep this thing afloat while I have a full-time job, it kind of took on legs, right? It started to gain momentum and more people were joining. And this was before I was actually making regular YouTube content. And then ultimately I ended up making separate tiers, right? Trying to offer more to folks who were paying more and yada, yada, yada. And that's where it kind of fell apart, to be completely honest with you. It became more of a business than the purpose of trying to help other people. And when that happened, it wasn't good. And I'll be the first one to admit it. I had a lot of naysayers, despite me showing actual proof of my accounts and the size that they were and the size of the trades I was taking and all this stuff. Ultimately, it put me in a deep, dark hole. Basically, I became super depressed. The people that I was paying to help me run this community didn't believe what I was doing. It in I don't tell a lot of people this. This is a very close to home subject, but for the sake of being transparent, uh, I'm going to share it. I ended up in a place where, you know, as a kid, when you're told you're lying, even though when you know you're not, remember that feeling, right? If your parents didn't believe you did something, even though you were doing the opposite, like you were doing everything you said you were doing, but somebody still says you're not, uh, that hurts, right? Because, you know, nobody likes to be called a liar when you're not lying. And so when that was happening to me, I started to doubt myself. I started to not want to deal with what I was trying to do. I started to shut down. And for the last 3 months, which was basically October, November, December of 2021, I basically kind of backed away from the whole thing. I was like, you know what? I'm out here trying to help people. And again, at the time, it didn't dawn on me that most people could achieve the same thing because of their limitations financially, right? It wasn't until after I fixed myself, fixed the process that I was using to make money, until I realized, you know what? This is unattainable for most. And I could see where it completely seems unbelievable.
Mhm.
So with that, I went through therapy. I went through all the things, fixed myself, and came back a completely different person, a better man, better father, better husband, better everything, and relaunched Trading Decoded in 2022. And the very first thing that I did is create a series called the Baby Account Challenge, where I started a $35 account and I traded it for 40 trading days, turning it into 5,300 bucks, documenting the entire thing, the entire process, logging into my actual TD Ameritrade account on a weekly basis, showing everybody everything. And what that did, not only for me, mostly for me, to be honest, is prove a couple of things that was my biggest hurdle for the first time around. One, with discipline and self control, it doesn't take a lot of money to make money. And number two, I know how to trade, and the method that I'm using actually works. Okay. And the third and most important was because of the first two things, I will never, ever, ever entertain or go out of my way to prove that what I'm doing is works or is real. Okay. That is something that I told myself I was never going to do. I will not prove my account ever again. I did all that. Okay. What I just did for 40 straight days was showed you from start to finish with 35 bucks to 5,300 bucks that the process works, right? There is no arguing whether it does or doesn't work. And ever since then, I think that it was more for me than other people, right? And after that happened, I basically had the same tier system, and I told everybody. I said, truth be told, this thing's growing at a pace, which I had to do, right? I told you earlier that money was becoming a problem for me because my expenses were going up despite me changing nothing. So
Mhm.
I said, I could either get a second job or I could put a little effort into this community and see if it could generate enough money to keep me out of a second job. You know, as a father of four and a husband, the last thing I wanted to do is spend an additional 8 hours out of the house trying to make ends meet. Well, Trading Decoded offered me the ability to put some effort in. I told everybody in our community if I'm able to create the same income that I make at work for 3 consecutive months from your support as a patron, I will quit my 9 to 5 job and I will do this full time. And the reason that that was the only stipulation is because, and this is so true, and I hope that everybody realizes this, so many people want to be day traders for a living. And when you have a primary source of income and you're trading as a hobby, that is a completely different ballgame than if you're trading solely for the purpose of paying your bills. If trading is your only source of income, there is a whole different level of stress involved than if it's just a hobby. So the purpose of Patreon covering my normal day job pay was so that I can make the transition from normal income at a 9 to 5 to basically I wanted to keep trading as a hobby until I knew and was confident enough to say, you know what? I don't need Patreon. I now know that if trading was my only source of income, that I can make ends meet, and I'm there. And that's kind of where we're at. So it started from that way and to where we are today.
I remember being in the room, and the reason why I wanted you to kind of explain the story of how you went from $10 to $100. During the $10 tier, that's when I was most actively in there, right? Because I was kind of checking out your group, and that was the time when I was still reviewing trading groups. And I like what I saw, but I did notice that you had a 9 to 5, but you were still consistently in the room and actively messaging and responding to anybody and everybody that had any questions. So it was like you were having two jobs. You were
Yeah.
your 9 to 5, and then you were doing that. And I remember people saying in a group, they're like, Jimmy, you need to charge more so you can quit. And I remember, and you and I spoke on the phone about this, and I want people to understand this isn't you just like as a cash grab. I remember that was one of your concerns because you and I spoke about it. You were like, it is scary to leave a 9 to 5. You had insurance, you have been with the job for a while. Like you said, you did reach the peak, but it was, it's safe. You knew the bills would get paid. You had nothing to worry about. In the end of the day, yeah, your living expenses are a little, out of whack, but
Yeah.
overall, you had a fine job that was just fine for you to move on. But the community really wanted you to get out of it. And then when you did raise it the first time, I think it was $50, correct? And pretty much everyone jumped over to the $50 tier, and it gave you the opportunity to really walk away. And then you started doing, like you said, like a bunch of different tiers, and you just went to one simple tier, $100, and that's pretty much what you get in the group. And you seem to have actually grown from the time that I was actively in there to now.
Yeah.
I mean, when you and I spoke, your YouTube channel was smaller than mine, so clearly you're doing something better than mine than I am. But you went from what was like 2,000 to like 10,000 now. You have a growing community. People seem to be happy, and all you do is spy, right? And
Yes.
SPX. My question to you is, so now your bills are taken care of, like you said, through the Patreon. That's the reason why you have it. And like you just said, it is a completely different ball game if you have a 9 to 5 and doing this as a hobby, which essentially is what I'm doing, right? I have a 9 to 5 and this is a hobby versus you, which was trading solely. But now the having the Patreon does alleviate some of that stress, which actually makes you a better trader. A lot of people don't understand that because you don't have to worry
Absolutely.
about losing your livelihood essentially. Because you know at this point, whatever money you make moving forward is from trading, but you know the Patreons have taken care of you, which gives you the opportunity to be into the group a lot more. And I will say this, you have stepped up your game quite a bit in the Patreon compared to where it was before. Before I thought it was excellent anyways, because I found it very fascinating that you were always in the group beyond 9 to 5. Like you were there in the morning and you were there in the evening and you had these, you know, heart to heart conversations with people. And this was for $10 and it was pretty damn low. And then you offered books, you offered education material and et cetera. So there was a lot of stuff that you offered. I really enjoyed your group. I definitely think it's worth it. So I will put my name behind it. But again, do you consider Trading Decoded a trading group or do you consider yourself more of an educator?
I want it to be more of an education. And the reason is because I do trade live. I tell everybody when I'm taking trades, when I'm getting out, what I'm paying, where I expect it to go, and all of those things. And not only that, I share my chart, which has all of my levels. So the biggest thing that I trade and try to teach is level to level. I'm all about support and resistance, right?
Mhm.
I don't use indicators. I don't like them, right? And more people say, "Why don't you use this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you say this?" Why? And the reason is because every indicator is based on essentially buying and selling, which is forms of support and resistance regardless, right?
Mhm.
So for me, when I started using or when I was using indicators, they were creating conflict in my trading decision, right? So I would see something on the chart and say, you know what, I should take a call here. But then I'd look over at RSI or whatever and say, wait, but this is telling me I shouldn't do it, right? So every time there was a conflict, I would avoid taking a trade or I would take a trade and it would just create an inner turmoil that would never usually work out in my benefit. So I stopped doing that. But the fact of the matter is this: trading is the most difficult thing that you will ever endeavor to learn. Okay, especially if you're trying to do it as a full time job. I was fortunate enough to create a way to allow me to have a bridge from a 9 to 5 job taking me to the life of a day trader and the wonderful people who help support me through that bridge are what allowed me to make this possible, right?
Mhm.
So trading decoded is education simply that I want people to understand why I take the trades I take, not for the purposes of taking the same trade, but why did Jimmy take this trade? What did he see that gave him the confidence to do it? Now, I'll tell you, even though the people in our group know, I've had 4 red trading days since January 1st this year, and I trade almost every single day. Okay. Now, there are a bunch of people out there who say that, you don't hold your trades long enough. Your method it's doesn't work. You need to be using volume. You need to be using that. But I do it every day in front of hundreds of people. It's working for me. And fortunately, because of this market, like I'd rather hold my trades even longer.
Mhm.
But with the uncertainty of the market, and it doesn't know what's wrong and it doesn't even know how to fix it. So it doesn't know where to go. So I don't feel comfortable holding my trades for long periods of time. I get in, my trades last 2 or 3, 4 minutes, and I'm out. I don't aim for a specific dollar amount per day. I don't aim for a certain number of trades. I aim to be green each day, and I try to employ the rules that I've created that allow me to be on the green side of the day way more often than the red side. So the point of trading decoded is to show through action that if you have a good trade plan, you have discipline, and you're able to stick to your rules, despite the dollar amount that you think you're making, as long as you're on the right side of the ledger, you can compound that over time, right? We talk about base hits every day. I want you to gain and build your account slowly over time. And then the only thing you have to change in the future is scaling up. Same trade, one extra contract. And essentially, you have doubled your income per trade, right? But you have to get used to process over profit. That's our biggest thing that we say. Understand the process, then worry about the profit. And in trading, everybody wants to get in. They want to hit the home runs. They want to get rich tomorrow. They want to retire tomorrow. Those are all the reasons that you'll lose your account, right? If you come in here because you want to retire your wife, or you want to retire from your day job, or you want to be a millionaire tomorrow, you're going to play too big, and you're going to hold your losing trades too long, and you'll just give your money away. So my goal is to teach people, and you'll never find a video out there that ever says ever that I say trading in general is easy. It is not. And I have something to lose by telling you that, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's not sexy. It's not good for marketing at all.
right. If I'm asking you to be a patron, hey, support me. And at the same time, I'm telling you, by the way, this is the most difficult thing you'll ever do. And most people don't succeed at it. I am never going to shy away from saying that and sugarcoat it. It's a fact, right? So most people will fail at it. My job, my goal, the whole reason I wake up every morning to do this is not because I need Patreon anymore, because I've come comfortable in making money and trading. It's so that I can teach people how to get into a similar situation that I was able to do myself. It didn't happen that long ago. And as somebody who struggles, it's very easy, Mark, to say when you haven't tried it or you can't do it, to tell somebody else that something is impossible. Okay. And if you would have told me a year ago that it's impossible to day trade for a living, I probably would have believed you. But now, having actually done it myself, my job, my goal at this point is to help other people believe that they can do it too. And I say this all the time, and I'll put it openly out there to whoever sees this, okay? If the number of subscribers or patrons drops to a point where it's no longer worth my time, because I'll be honest with you, I want you to value your time just like I value my time. I sit in front of a computer screen 8 hours a day minimum, trying to help other people. I don't care who you are or what you charge, that holds value, and it should. Okay. Whether it's $10 a month, $50 a month, $1,000 a month. The fact of the matter is this: I could be done every single day by 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning with all the money that I need to survive comfortably because of the way I'm trading and the position size I'm able to take. But it is more important to me to help other people get out of the hamster wheel that most of us get stuck in for our entire lives because we don't think we can do it. We don't think we can be better. We're told all the time, this is the way life has to be, and this is the way it is. And we believe it. Until I was able to grow the man grapes, as I call it, to say, you know what? The worst thing that could happen if I try and do this is twofold. Number one, I lose my 9 to 5 job, which is in a dead end business anyway. Or I go start this thing and it doesn't work out and I got to find a new job anyway. Either way would have been better for me, right? I would have ended up in a new job and a new career that probably would have paid me at least the same or more, right? But the fear of failure is what keeps people stuck in this spot where you say it's not possible. I'm trying to teach people that it is possible, and I'm trying to teach you how to do it as safely as possible. We have hundreds of people in our group daily, every single day, that are in the live trading chat channel with me, whether they have full-time jobs, part-time jobs. We have retired people in there, and our win rate as a community is right around 72%, which is huge considering 95% of retail traders fail in general, period. right? So I'm very, I, I, I I don't want to pat myself on the back because it's not just me. Our community as a whole is super supportive of everybody. You have a rough day, there are hundreds of people there to support you. You have a great day, there are hundreds of people there to congratulate you. I do not tolerate and will never tolerate nasty attitudes in there because your $100 a month is not worth that to me. That is the one thing that does not happen in there, and I take pride in that, right? So, long story short, yes, it's educational. I'm sorry, it was a long-winded answer.
No, well, you said a lot. So, are you ready for the hard questions?
Of course.
Ready for it? Okay. So, you said that now you're at the point where you no longer need the Patreons, right?
Mhm.
So, you're saying that you make more money now. Are you making more money trading, or are you making more money off of the Patreon?
Right now, it's about even. It's
Okay.
it's it's basically a 50-50. So, on my average day trading is between $800 and $1,500 a day. So monthly at the end, it's breaking very close to even. And I'll also be honest with you, net patrons for the last 2 or 3 months has been actually declining a little bit.
Okay.
So,
I love that you even broke that down because I was going to lead into another question about your returns every day. But if that's so, in that case, though, if it's 50-50, but you don't necessarily need Patreons, people are going to ask you this question. Someone's going to ask you, why even continue to charge?
because my time is valuable to me and it should be valuable to other people. I would never ask you to come to my house for 8 hours or mow my lawn for free, right? And so education costs money, regardless of where it's coming from or who it's coming from, right? The amount of money that I'm using or the amount of money that I'm making using the educational material that I'm teaching other people is irrelevant, right? Because we're all at different stages in the game,
Hmm.
right? I've been able, fortunate enough, and I'll be completely honest with this one too. I started January 1st, 2023, having drawn my trading account down to $13,000. Today, it sits at 73,615 bucks on my public trading account that I trade in our community every day. Um, so I went from 13,000 January 1 to 73,000 and change today. Um, so you tell me, do I need Patreon money? I don't live extravagantly, so I could tell you comfortably, no, I don't. That being said, I get told daily because we talk about it. I'm not afraid to hide. I don't hide this, Mark, and I want you to be very clear about this. I just told you if it gets to a point where the patron dues are not no longer worth my time, right? Let's just say I was making $5,000 a month on Patreon. It's now worth me working 40 hours a week live trading for that amount of money.
Hmm.
Okay. Because $5,000, I'm making that trading per week anyway. And it wouldn't change my lifestyle at all to be $5,000 less per month, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to be pompous. I'm not trying to be, up on my high horse. The fact of the matter is this. One of the very few things that I learned when I was working my 9 to 5, and I'll never forget this because one of my customers that I used to do side work for shot me down when I sent him an invoice for a side job I did for him. He's like, Jimmy, I am not paying that. I'm like, why not? And he said, you're not charging enough for your time. Now, this is a customer who's paying me for work, telling me I'm not charging enough. I was so hungry for extra money that I was severely undervaluing myself. Okay. Now, I'll also be honest with you with this. It didn't go from 50 to $100 a month until I went full time. Okay. When I went full time, I was going to be dedicating a lot more time, therefore offering, in my opinion, a lot more value. Now, most everything that happens in our community is done so at a vote from our community. I don't just raise prices without asking the people who are in there first what they think. Okay. I don't think, or I didn't think, and I know this is going to sound horrible. I didn't think that I was worth that kind of money. I'm being completely honest. I had inner turmoil with myself. I would go over these discussions with our moderators. Nobody ever told me, Jimmy, what we're learning here is not worth $100 a month. Not a single person. And the ones who don't think that it is, they leave. Okay.
Hmm.
So I struggled with that price jump for a long time, right? Because when you look at it this way, if I were to tell you, Mark, uh, I want trading advice, I want one-on-one individual attention, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I'm only going to pay you $100 a month. You would tell me to go pound sand, I hope, right? Because it's not worth your time. So what I was looking at is the number of folks that were paying me that $100 and saying, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Right. But then if you break it out on an individual level, because I have, in fact, later tonight at 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to be having a one-on-one telephone conversation with one of our members who's struggling, asking for advice. I mean, if you understood or heard half of the DMs that I get or I deal with, people, so desperate that they want to end their lives, people asking, what should I do as far as buying a house? How should I finance this? How should I deal with my credit card debt? It goes way beyond the trading. And you know what? I'm extremely proud to be the guy that's being the recipient of those questions because I feel like I have that information to offer having been there myself, right? There's nothing more real than somebody who was struggling, just like most people, being there, having done it, gotten out of that struggle to be there as a person to try and help you get out of it too. My wife's a teacher. Okay. If you would have asked me a year and a half ago, Jimmy, you think you'd ever want to be a teacher? I would have laughed straight in your face. Okay. Because it's one of those thankless jobs. Okay. Educators in this country get treated like total garbage. And I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about
Yeah,
actual
just in
teachers.
general. Yeah, it absolutely.
And so I would have never, but here I am waking up every day. I have 5 rules, right? I basically tell people every day, and this is how I live my actual life, right? I wake up with the intent of being a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better trader, and a better friend every day. And when you put those types of mentalities, those thought processes in your head, you're constantly trying to achieve to do better, right? Not even financially, right? I truly and genuinely want other people to have the same success or better than I've been fortunate enough to have. That means so much to me. When our group, dude, when we have people make more money than me in a day, I am ecstatic for them. The fact that I'm trying to help people change their lives, and it extends well beyond their lives, right? As a father of four, I've started 4 Roth IRAs for my kids so that when they're 45 or 59 or whenever, they don't have to worry about retirement, right? They won't know it exists. They won't know that they don't have to work for their whole life until they get to that age. But the fact of the matter is this: I'm trying to help other people. And I just started another series called the Divvy Den, right? I'm going completely out of the norm as far as what we've talked about this, right? What people think I should be doing or not doing, but I'm going to do it anyway because you know what? It's either going to work or it's not. But at the end of the day, I'm investing money in the market long term, and something will be there at the end for my kids. And whether it's to help you or to help somebody else, my goal has turned into, because I've been helped, to help other people. I don't like seeing people suffer. I don't like seeing people in a hard time, and I want to do everything I can to help people stay out of that situation. Right?
Yeah,
It's
I'm glad
just
you
what it
broke it
is.
down with the whole value part. My mindset has shifted somewhat looking back on some of the groups I went through. Um, Pretty much all the groups I did post is I had overall good experience in. But hanging out with Mo, which is the guy I do the podcast with, Money Market Truth. By the way, check it out, everyone, on the Come Up series, shameless plug. Uh, he's, I've been in his group also for almost I'm basically almost in nobody's group anymore. I kinda just hang out sometimes and just
Yeah.
pop in, but just speaking to him on a daily day basis because we're, like, close friends now, it's, you guys, it's pretty exhausting managing a bunch of people who are trying to learn how to trade, I've noticed. And I don't think a lot of people, especially in the YouTube space, see that. And, and I'm also one of the people who give people shit for having groups and being grifters and stuff. But you guys have to understand that to differentiate who I'm calling out and who I'm not calling out. Because I'm sure some people are like, wait a second, I thought you don't like, these day traders who have groups. I don't, because the most popular ones are the ones who put little effort in there, charge so much. And a lot of times these guys aren't even the ones teaching anymore. What I've
Right.
noticed, like in Mo's group and in like your group, you are there. This is like your job. You're treating it as a job. You're there in the morning. You stay, even like you said, usually you do your trades in the morning. You're in a real life. Had you not had a group, you would probably be done
Oh yeah.
before noon, most likely before noon, and you'd walk away. You do what you got to do. But once you start a group and once you start accepting payments, you the customers kind of you are owned by the customers in a way, right?
Absolutely.
You owe them a service. They're paying you and therefore you need to provide that value. It's not the other
Absolutely.
way around. They're not doing you a favor by paying you. I mean, I guess they are because they are helping with the living expenses, but you get what I'm saying. In the end of the day, you're seeing it as like these are the customers, they're paying me, therefore I need to show up for work. Not the other way around where some people have the mentality, and I'll say it, Ian Dunlap's one of them, where he's just like, they should be grateful that I'm even here.
Nah.
And it shouldn't be that way, and that's one of the reasons why I rock with you, and that's one of the reasons I was hoping we could actually do this in person because you're also one of the few people that I've come across and I've been watching you and keep an eye on you because I really do my due diligence these days. I'm just having conversations with people, and you're a genuine dude who really is trying to help. But I also understand just like the mental health aspect of some of this stuff. Cause even me went out for 6 months when I was just trading. It was very stressful. Like that was the only income. I mean, like you have a Patreon, took care of your bills. I had a check that came in to take care of all my bills, but everything extra was off of trading. And it was extremely, extremely stressful. And when I got offered a job, again, I wasn't seeking it. I got the opportunity. So I took the opportunity. I don't like to close doors. I will always try out something. That's my mindset, and it's
Right.
really worked out for me because I've become a better trader in that aspect for the most part. I still make
Yeah.
mistakes here and there, but I've become a better trader because now I'm not solely relying on the trading income.
Yeah.
Now this is extra and it can give me that process to learn. It also creates a level of um I guess chill is a way, like zen, where
Yeah.
like if you don't want to trade today, like I don't want to trade today, so I'm not going to.
Exactly.
But in your situation, and same thing with a lot of people who have these groups, you can't do that because you have a crowd of people who are relying on you.
Yep.
So you can't just say, today I'm just gonna go to the beach. I don't want to do this. And I'm sure, like, if you talk to your group, like, hey, this is an emergency here today. I'm mentally exhausted. I just want to take a day. I'm sure they would agree. But for you, you said earlier that you actually, when you first started trading, you had no fear,
Yes.
which caused you to take these really insane trades, correct?
Yeah.
Luckily for you, it was during 2020, so everything worked out,
It's going up.
right?
Yeah. Everything was
Yeah,
going up. You
yeah,
couldn't screw it up.
yeah. You literally have to be an idiot to fail
Yeah.
in 2020. I'm just gonna be honest, like,
Yeah.
um, but why were you reckless like this? Like for a person who was doing 9 to 5, you knew your job would potentially eventually expire, right? Because it's archaic, like you were saying, no one's really using paper,
Right.
um, and you were doing all these other side hustles, and then you get into trading, which is really hard and scary. Why were you so reckless and had no emotions to money? Because I would feel like it would have been the opposite, where I would have been scared to lose any additional money.
Uh, because that account was funded from a previous employer and was no longer being continued to be funded. And you kind of forgot about it, right? I had been working at the place that I just left for 15 years. That's not the employer that funded that account. So that money had been sitting in that account untouched for 15 years. I
Wow.
wasn't contributing to it anymore. It was just there because my previous employer actually offered it. Um, and so literally it was like found money, right? It was no different. And being honest, It was no different than if you were to have found $100 on the casino floor and you not caring about sticking it into the next slot machine that you walked by. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those situations where it was like, oh, look, there's a nice chunk of money over here that I completely didn't forget about, but wasn't relying on in any way. That money being there or not affected my current lifestyle absolutely zero. Zero. Because I wasn't relying on it to live. It wasn't a part of my day to day income. And I'd been working at this place at the time for 13 years without that money. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
It's almost like it was almost like if you got an inheritance coming, right? You might take your inheritance and go spend it on something stupid because it's money you didn't plan on, you didn't think you had, you didn't know you had. And you know what? Now that I have it, I'm just going to go do something reckless with it. The point, the reason that I was doing what I was doing was because the ability to explore the possibility of how can this scale. My limitation before that account was my buying power, right? If you start out with an account that can only afford 5 contracts at a time, but you're finding success with that, you're going to say, well, either I'm going to put more money in here, money that you need to live, right? Because you have to take it out of your paycheck to put it in your trading account to see, all right, well, I'm able to do this with 5 contracts. What happens when I do it with 10, right? Well, without having to put, if you had the ability to do the same thing without interjecting your actual day pay into that to see how it goes, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Like, here's this account sitting over here with everything that I would like to know how it works if it does. And then, of course, it never ends, right? So the downside to making money is, and it it kind of broke me in a sense, right? You want to know with anything in life, how far can I push it? How far will it go? Right? If I could buy 5 and make this much, what happens if I buy 10? You make double. Okay. What happens if I buy 15 or 20? You know, where is that breaking point? Whether it's emotional, whether it's financially, whether it's fill problems, whatever the case is, at some point there, you want to push the boundaries, just like a child, right? How far can I go before mom smacks the shit out of me, right? Uh, and that's just human nature, right? That's how we progress as people. Right? You push the envelope, push, 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 push. And when you're doing that with money that is, it's not that it's insignificant. It affected your day-to-day life zero, right? Would that money have been important to me when it's time to retire? Absolutely, because I would have been drawing on it because I had to for retirement purposes. But at the time, here I am, 42 years old, and well, it's over there. Let's give it a try, right? Let's see what happens. The problem was when I went into that state of depression, the very first thing I wanted to do, and it was way worse than any other time before that, was that money no longer mattered to me. Like,
Wait, hold on. I feel like you're skipping something you said when you were in a state of depression. What do you mean?
oh, so in the beginning of this interview, when I told you that even though I was proving my account to my moderators and things like that, um, that pushed me into when we were talking about, you know,
How people are not believing you and stuff.
yeah,
And
correct. All right. So between that, some marital issues I was dealing with at the time, just financial issues, um, I went into a very dark place, to a place that I was one bullet away from not coming out of. It got bad, and that's no joke. In fact, that bullet still sits on my nightstand right now. And if it wasn't for, this is the thing that I was telling you that not many people know about, but here we are. Um, if it wasn't for that picture on my nightstand of my 4 kids, we wouldn't be having this interview today. And I'm okay with sharing that story because there's a couple of things that changed in me permanently because of those times, right? Number one, I know what it feels like to be at the very bottom, literally at the very bottom. And I'm not talking about, my life was in shambles from the outside. You would think everything was fine. But I was in a point where nothing, literally nothing mattered anymore. Nothing. And there's nothing more dangerous or scary than that feeling because the money didn't matter. The, my kids didn't matter. My wife didn't matter. None of it mattered. Dude, depression is a real thing. And up until that point in my life, it was kind of one of those things that you would hear go in one ear and out the other. But having dealt with it myself, never again. Anytime anybody, because it's happened to me probably 4 times since I started this trading group, says that word, I will spend hours, days, weeks, or months with that person talking to them if they will not go to somebody to talk to them themselves. It's a real thing. I was there, scary and shit. But long story short, that account that I was trading recklessly got to a point where it was so valuable that it can change and will change if I survive long enough to make it to that retirement age, my life, at the very least, my kids' lives. Okay. That account has grown to a size that's significant. It is no longer traded. It's no longer touched by me. It's in the hands of a financial advisor so that if I ever go into that deep dark hole again, because the very first thing I wanted to do, Mark, was risk it all because I didn't care anymore. And that's a problem.
That,
Um,
that's
so,
crazy, Jimmy. That's thank you for sharing that, by the way. But that's
uh,
really publicly. So, in a sense, and this may sound cringe, but in a sense, trading actually saved your life
it- so
because it
maybe kind
because
of
it
sort of.
because you were at the right time, the right place during the right bull market. In a way, it's like you were the money
So
came bull market.
it provided me a chance at retirement, which is, I guess, some people would. That account has made it so that I can actually retire. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
Whether you retire a millionaire or whether you retire, comfortably, either way, that account provided me the ability to do that. And the problem is that I was willing to sacrifice all of it when I
All of
was
it
in a
for
bad
that.
spot.
Yeah.
And that scared the ever living shit out of me, to be completely honest with you. Eat every bit as much as having that gun in my hand. Dude, I was on the edge of my bed. It was it was that close in that photograph. If it wasn't there, we wouldn't be here today. And because of that and everything I dealt with, everything I went through, uh, I went through therapy. I talked to psychiatrists, all kinds of things, dude. Um, I came out a completely different person and less about money and more about what's really important in life. And unfortunately, society has made it that if you don't have money, life becomes very difficult.
Yeah, you can't enjoy life. You can't see
That's
the
right.
happiness within what you have around you, surrounded
That's
by
right.
your family,
Yeah.
friends, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So through that whole ordeal, I was able to focus less on the money and more on the resolve to help people stay out of a similar situation. That's and I know it sounds cliche and it sounds like a sales pitch, but dude, if you ask the people in our community, I don't think you'll find a single person that will tell you that I'm not genuinely there for the sake of helping other people. I'm going to be okay financially. I've told you that on the phone. I'm telling you that here in front of God and everybody. Between my in-laws, my parents, and what I've done for myself, I'm going to be okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I find it extremely purposeful and gratifying to help other people potentially end up in a similar situation. Dude, I don't, as much as I want everybody to retire wealthy, what's more important to me is that at some point You have the decision to work because you want to, not because you have to.
That's too. Yeah.
And if you do all the right things early enough, that actually becomes extremely easy. But most of us weren't taught early in our 20s to just put $30,000 away. And by the time you're 59 and a half, you'll have $2.5 million on the rate of average return and you're fine, right? We all pissed away. If you go back and look at how much money, Mark, you've actually dumped on things over the course of your life, I'm sure it's annoying and mind boggling compared to where you should be if we would have just given up a couple of stupid things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, I was in Vegas. Trust me. Yes,
Yeah. So
absolutely.
so there that's most people, right? Like I've gone through times where I made a shit ton of money in jobs that I was doing and side things I was doing, selling satellite cards during those times and just
Mhm.
just you name it, dude. There was times where I was making 500 to $1,000 a day, easy, shooting pool and selling satellite cards, doing nothing. And what did I do with that money? I have nothing to show for any of that money. And we're talking 300, 400, $500,000 over the course of that period. Nothing. I have nothing. I didn't buy a house with it. I paid off some credit card debt, like nothing smart, right? And now as a father of four, 45 years old, I'm trying so hard to help other people not be in that situation who are going to be less fortunate than me, right? That didn't have the opportunity to trade crazy to make money or have in-laws that are going to afford them the ability to retire or, parents that are going to leave them inheritances that will make them comfortable. My goal is to, and I fully believe this, and it's not a popular thing because I'm not one who feels bad for people who don't have what they want in life because I'm a full believer there is nothing stopping you other than yourself from achieving any goal that you set out to achieve. It may be harder for some than others,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, you're the only person who's going to change your life. And every day I go into our trading group trying to be the motivator, whether it's through education or my words like we're having right now, to help you believe in yourself so that you can do what you want at some point in your life. I mean, you have to understand where I came from to get here. I don't forget, and I never will forget how I got from A to B. Right. And now it's literally a personal mission for me to help other people achieve the same thing. Trading or not, right? It doesn't matter if it's through trading. Dude, if you're working for somebody else, most likely you're making them rich and you'll never be rich yourself. You,
Yeah.
you got to break out of that hamster wheel and do something, right? The only thing you have to fear is the what ifs, right? Later in life, if you never tried something you wanted to do, you'll never know if you could have done it. I refuse to live with that. And number two, the worst thing that can happen by you trying to make your life better is that it doesn't work out. It can't get worse, right? It can only get better if you just try something. And that's kind of my mantra now, man.
Well, if you, at the time when that money came to you, right? The found money had had you gotten into started trading and had things went the opposite direction, will would that bullet have been used?
Um, Probably not. The reason well, maybe actually. Probably not though. And the reason is, and I love these types of things because I always tell people go back in time and determine when you made a decision that changed the course of your life, right? The butterfly effect.
Mhm.
Uh, and you can literally go back to a time where you met somebody who created the reason you are where you are today,
Mhm.
right? If I didn't have that money to trade, would I have had the numbers to justify people following me into my own community in the first place? The answer is probably not, right? That money allowed me to create numbers that seemed unrealistic and impossible for enough people to doubt me to send me to the place where I ended up in the first place. I would have been unhappy, had issues because of marriage and other things. I mean, let's be honest, the number one cause of divorce is financial.
Yeah, it's
Right.
financial or infidelity, those 2.
Right.
You should the 2.
So we were having financial problems. God bless my wife. We were high school sweethearts. We separated, we weren't together right out of high school, and then we got back together. My wife's not materialistic in any way. Okay. But when you can't pay the electric bill because you know, or your water bill, my water used to get shut off. My electric would shut off. I remember it'd be at 8 o'clock right before I'd leave to go to work. All right. In the morning. It would just and that's when I would pay the bill. It's a horrible way to live, and it's completely irresponsible. But that's where I was, man. Like, I'm not trying to hide nothing. I was in that boat. And so when I tell you, I know what it's like to be on the really shitty side of financials and down in the dumps. I mean it. And it wasn't that long ago. So the answer to your question is I would have had different issues without that found money.
Mhm.
Found money was probably part of the straw that broke the camel's back because it allowed me to be put in a position that enough people were paying attention to what was going on to create enough non-believers, even people that I was paying to doubt me, despite showing proof, like literally videos of me logging into my trading account, showing them. Didn't matter. That kind of set me over the edge. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I don't need this. It's not worth it. And truthfully, that's when I realized that it's unattainable for most because most people don't have that kind of found money or that account sitting over there. Money now has become a god. Let's be honest, right? If you don't have it, it's very difficult to be happy, especially in this country, right? You might be in a third world country where they never had money. They're as happy as people can possibly be with what they've got.
Mhm.
Right? We have migrated so far away from that mentality because of what's afforded to us via credit or anything else, right? We live on debt, and we're a country of keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Capitalist. We're a capitalistic country.
Right.
Everything's capitalism.
But
One.
but society has made us feel like if we don't keep up with the rest of society, then we're not
Correct.
good enough, right?
Correct. Yeah. Mhm.
We don't if you don't have the newest Nikes, you're a chump, right?
Yep.
If you're not wearing, the nicest hats or have the nicest watch or the nicest vehicle, you're a nobody, right? And that's
Yep.
so completely unfortunate. And I've raised my kids because I was that guy. I always have the nice
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
nice hat, pay for this. For what? To be miserable and broke? So that you can be cool to the people around you? My kids, all 4 of them, now know, don't give a shit about what other people think or say about you. You do you, whatever makes you happy, and what's gonna happen is the people that need to be around you will gravitate towards you, right? If you're being somebody you're not for the sake of being around people that shouldn't be around you, you're gonna be miserable because at some point that facade's gonna go away and those people are gonna run away from you, right? And so, I had this massive change of view on life, um, and what's important, in because of my own personal issues that completely changed the way I respect other people, their time, their money, everything. And that's kind of what we deal with every day. In fact, I'm starting a podcast. I think I told you about the emotional side of trading, right? Because I think it's something that's not talked about enough. And truthfully, it's the biggest problem with trading. I think that's why most people fail at trading is the emotional side. It's not your ability to read a chart. And I could spend a week with you and tell you exactly when you should and shouldn't buy and what you should or shouldn't buy. But if you don't know how to deal with that trade once you're in it, it's not going to matter, right?
Correct. Yeah, it stays. They say I've said this multiple times on various different podcasts because I've spoken to many traders. It always comes down to the same thing. I think what we decided was 80% of it is emotions and 20% is actually learning the skills of technicals and how the market works and stuff. But 80% of it is really skills because it's an emotional roller coaster. That's the reason why the algos and hedge fund they do such a better job at it because there's really no emotion. set.
It's
So
computer doing it. I don't
yeah,
care.
yeah.
I do this.
And well, I will say this, like, I do hate that everyone there are actual people trading, though. I know we always go down that path of, you know, a lot of people always say, the algos, but there's actually people also trading for these hedge fund companies and stuff, but they have an edge that a lot of us don't have. And I think there's some proprietary um, algorithm or something that they have as well that will trigger in large orders, stuff like that can swing the market clearly. But it is hard because they always say, I've heard this as well. I don't know if you agree with this, that a lot of the charts that you see while they're being created, candles are being created on the charts, they're delayed. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess it's possible, but how do they, you got tons of hedge funds, right? You got
Mhm.
lots of big money out there. How do they delay it for some and not for others, right? If it's delayed for you and me, how is it not delayed for
For everyone else.
other people?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge supporter of hedge funds are out to get us. Market makers are out to get us. I know how they make money,
Mhm.
and I know that it's easier to blame those people than it is ourselves for trading mistakes. But at the end of the day, you and I and most people in the market, retail wise anyway, we're insignificant.
Mhm.
We're but fleas on the back of that dog. And what we're looking to do as day traders or traders in general is take our predictable piece of the pie, right? If you aim to try and take the entire piece of the pie, you're going to get burned, right?
Mhm.
If you are afraid to get in, the adage of don't fight the market, that exists because we don't move the market. Big
Correct.
money moves the market, right? We just want to get in, take our little piece and get out, and they don't care about us really.
Mhm.
Um, it's and this is something that we talk about often. And again, I'm huge on accountability, right? I might tell you what trades I'm taking or what trades I would take, but I'm not pushing the buttons on your account, right? If the trade doesn't work and I took the trade, I'm losing money myself, right? It's not like I'm ever going to tell people I'm buying calls here, and that if it doesn't go against me, I say, "Oh, just kidding." Right? I tell people in advance, hey, if we get to this line, I'm buying calls. Or if we get to this support, I'm buying puts. Whatever the case is, right? I tell you in advance. I tell you my whole process and what I'm doing. But to answer your question, again, it's easier to blame somebody else than it is to take responsibility, right? And this is for everything in life, Mark. It's easier to say, I don't make enough money because of this reason or my boss or what. And that may be the case. So you got one of two choices. Go ask your boss for more money or go find a job that pays better or do more at your current job so that you're more valuable to justify more money, right? Same thing with trading. If you get into a trade and you're up in profit and we hit your profit target and you don't take your profits, it reverses, goes against you, end up losing money on the trade. Whose fault is that? Right? You broke your rules. You had a profit target, you didn't take it because you're greedy, but you'll immediately blame market makers, the market, everybody but yourself, right? Because it's easier to do that, right? We very seldom want to accept responsibility for things that harm us, right? Because as humans, we don't we don't take kindly to loss, being wrong, or all of those things, right? So one of the big things we talk about all the time is I'm a line to line trader. If I get in on support or resistance, I'm getting out at the next line of support and resistance. But Jimmy, what if it keeps going? What if? Right? But what if it turns around? I tell people all the time, it's amazing how quickly we become the best trader or the worst trader on the planet based on what happens after we get out of our trade, right? You can get out at resistance, your profit target, and if the thing keeps going up, and at the time you're happy as a pig in shit, the thing keeps going in your favor, and you're like, oh man, I should have held it. I could have made so much money,
Yes.
right? You're
That's
right. And then, but and you're pissed at yourself, right? Same scenario, you're happy, you got your profit, the thing goes completely against you, and you say, man, I knew I should have got out there because I knew it was going to reject when it got there. I'm the best trader in the world. It's the craziest thing ever, right? So we do this for ourselves every time we take a trade.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that until you get out of your own way, you'll always be your own barricade. Right?
Hmm.
If you can get past yourself and say, you know what, base hits are going to consistently grow my account versus trying to hit that home run every time where you lose most of your account, you can build confidence and you can build your account, which in time will allow you to play larger, which will make you happier, right? You're the only reason that you think $10 on a trade or $20 on a trade is not good enough. It's nobody else saying, Mark, you're a sucker for only making 20 bucks on that trade. No, it's you saying, man, I got into this trade. I'm only up 20 bucks. I know I should get out here because the chart tells me so. Uh, I'm just going to hold on and see if it goes higher, right? Next thing you know, you close out break even or close out with 10 bucks or you close out red, right? You're the reason that you didn't take 20 bucks when you had the opportunity, right? You ignored the chart in hopes that the chart was going to be wrong that time because you were in the trade and you wanted more. Think about that, right?
Just not to say, yeah.
One of my favorite things to say is don't walk past the $20 bill on the ground in hopes of finding $100 around the corner. For people who are learning how to trade, most people who are learning how to trade can't afford to walk past that $20 bill on the ground. You can't. Not only that, the confidence that comes with picking up that 20 bucks is way more important than what you could possibly imagine, right? If you do three $20 trades per day, right? And this is an exercise I tell people to do all the time. Just take a 10% win 2 or 3 times a day. Do that for a week or two. Compare that to your previous week or two and tell me if your account growth was bigger or smaller than the previous 2 weeks. People get it caught in their head that $10 isn't worth getting out of bed for. $10 isn't worth taking off the table because I haven't made enough money. Right? But if you would have done that every day for 2 weeks, right, there'd be $100 added to your account. Whereas in the previous 2 weeks, you were aiming for a specific target, a specific dollar amount. You not only didn't get there, but you lost money on your account. What's better? Gaining $100 over 2 weeks or losing 10 over 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And that right. But that's the thing that we get caught in our heads. It's because of what we've created money, what we've made it, how important it's become, the pedestal we put it on, we've lost the value in not only the dollar amount itself, but how quickly we made it in the first place, right? Friday, we had people make 45% account growth in a 3-minute trade for some people. And at some point, they felt the need to continue to trade. And I said to them, I said, listen, what's in your account right now is guaranteed. Don't lose sight of what that money, how fast you made that. Break it down into an hourly wage. If you were at a day job and that amount of money was going to be paid to you per hour, would you be happy with that? And if the answer is yes, you should probably say, all right, I'm going to walk away for the day. I believe that time in the market is additional risk, right? But new traders think that more time in the market means more profits. Is not the case, right? Get in, get your money, get out, depending on your style of trading. But at the end of the day, if the market has no idea what it wants to do, right? When the Fed and government decides how they're going to fix this problem, whether it's up or down, at least we know which way the market is going to trend. But for now, dude, it is crazy what's going on out there. The market has no clue how to fix the problem. They don't even know what the real problem is. And until that happens, they're not going to deploy capital enough to say, okay, it's time for a bull market, or okay, it's time for a bear market. And so we get in, we get out. We take our little piece of the pie.
Mhm. I like the concept that you said, usually just getting 10% a day. However, there's some pushback on that as well. How much are you risking? I know it's easier said than done when they say take 10%. Because I saw this recently, this post that this lady posted on TikTok. I don't have TikTok. Someone sent it to me though, but it was like this is how you can take $30 and be a millionaire by the end of the year. So if you trade, um, and get 5% every single day, it will equal out to like $1 million a year or something.
Yeah.
And when she put down, starting with $30, she first put it down, I was like, the commission alone doesn't really cover the 5%. I mean, or
Right.
it covers like the commission will eat up majority of the 5% on that first couple of trades because of what 65 cents round trip on like their more respectable brokerages like TD Ameritrade or E Trade or whatever. Webull I think is free, but that's the myth, and that's also saying that if you take 5% every single day for the entire year, that means you have zero losses and you trade every day Monday through Friday, and that's very unrealistic. So when you're saying like, "Hey, take 10%," like what's the risk? What type of risk are you putting on the table? Like, what do you recommend for that 10%?
Okay. So I'm not talking about 10% account growth, first of all, which is what that scenario that you're talking about would be. It's not 5% per trade. She's talking about 5% per for your account. That's
Yeah,
see,
you're going all in. So take the whole $30 and take whatever you made off of that, the entire thing. Yeah.
right. So that's the same thing as if I offered you $1 million right here for a penny doubled every day, right? If I gave you a
That's how
penny
that works.
today,
Yeah.
yeah, most people would take $1 million, not realizing how much doubling.
Penny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it's a huge difference, right? And how a lot of people look at risk versus how I look at risk is completely different, right? So I don't look at the cost of the trade as the risk of the trade. I look at the amount that I'm willing to lose on the trade as my risk, right? So if I put on $1,000 trade, but I'm only willing to lose $100 of that thousand, what's the risk? To me, it's $100. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Right? So, but you have people who think that if I put on $1,000, that's $1,000 risk, right? And so therefore, their risk to reward, if it's 2 to 1, is I'm going to risk 1,000, I'm looking for 2,000. No chance. My average trade with SPX, because this is what I've done in this current market,
Hmm.
is my average trade nets me anywhere from 8 to 10% of the cost of my trade. Okay. So in my case, we'll just use round numbers. I play SPX out at the money and I take 5 contracts. And I'll explain why I take 5 in a second.
And that's a lot. So let's be clear on that capital as well that you're putting up, because even 5 contracts on SPX at the money, you're
Yes, you're
looking at.
talking $5,000 to $6,000 per trade
Hmm.
at on a normal day, barring, crazy volatility, sometimes it's more money, right? And as a result, this goes back to the whole time in the market is risk, right? The reason I went to SPX is because of the crazy Shrek and Twizzler candles that seem to pop up out of nowhere all the time now, right? You could be
Yeah.
in a nice move to the upside, and then all of a sudden, this massive red candle comes out of nowhere, right?
Yep.
I'm very aware that that exists. I don't want to be a part of that game. So I increased my position size, right? Added leverage to minimize my time in the market. Okay. You can do the same thing. And this is where that whole talk of people focus on the dollar amount versus the percentage of the win, right? If $10 is not enough to you, if you put $100 on for a trade and you get a 10% win, that's $10. Most people will say $10 isn't worth it. I'm not going to take the trade. Okay. But would you say the 10% of $1,000 is not worth the trade? So $1,000 contract, you're making $100. The risk reward looks skewed, right? For me, when I trade SPX, very simple. I get in at whatever price, let's say it's $800 or $500 or $600 for the contract. I immediately go for a limit order at $100 per contract more. Okay. Regardless of the cost, regardless of the move, I'm getting in for a very specific move. I'm looking to get in and get out with $100 per contract, 5 contracts. That's $500 per trade. And I'm getting that usually between 1 and 3 minutes time. Now, you might look at that and say, but Jimmy, you put $5,000 or $6,000 on the line to only make $500. And you'd be right. Under normal trading tradition, the risk reward is not worth it. But my side of the token is I'm not risking $5,000 or $6,000. I'm not ever going to let my trade go to zero, ever. And I don't care what anybody says, right? If you if you let your trade go to zero, you've become into the hold and hope stage, and there's no fixing that, right? You can't fix that. It's just gonna it is been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right? But I'd like to think that I've gotten to a point where I hope to never go there again, right? We will have our days. I tell people all the time, the differentiating factor between a good trader who's doing it for a living and somebody who's just starting to learn, it's not that the emotional side of it goes away. You just learn how to deal with the emotions better, right? You learn how to not panic when the trade goes against you. You learn how to take your profits when you're supposed to instead of being greedy, right? New traders, everything's new. It's exciting, it's devastating, it's extremes, right? It's extreme highs and extreme lows. When you've been doing it for a while, it's no longer extremes. It's very, if this happens, I'm taking profit or losses regardless, right? There's no you hope to take the emotional side out of it, and that's what differentiates somebody from who does it for a living successfully and somebody who's learning to do it for a living, right? Firm believer in that. The emotion part never goes away. I get excited every time my trade is going green. It doesn't matter how much it is. We all like money, right? We all want to make. So I'm excited when it goes in my favor, but I still manage to trade as if it's a dollar versus $500, right? That's my plan. I get in when I'm supposed to. I get out at a very specific point. Now, if that move is happening so fast that I can get more out of the trade, great. But under normal circumstances, because of the current market, I'm using leverage to make quick money, and the cost to reward is not a part of my I don't look at it as I need a 2 to 1 or, whatever the case. And I don't even set my stop losses at a particular dollar amount or a percentage amount. I use an actual spot on the chart as where I'm going to get out, because if support looks like it's going to hold, I'll give it, a candle wick or whatever to keep me in. If it breaks that, I'm out.
I was going to ask you about that because I know SPX, like you were saying, you're going for, the quick, $100 move or whatever. But I know, like when you do SPX, you could immediately be down $100 right away.
Yep.
So, because
Yeah.
it's very drastic. So that's why I was going to ask you that next. Like, are you doing percentage? Because if you're doing percentage, there's a good chance you get knocked out quite a bit.
Yep.
No, on
Yep.
SPX.
Manage. So if I'm looking at if I'm buying on a line of support, and 3 candles prior to my entry point, let's just say the line is my entry, and I've got a wick that hangs down 10, 12 cents below that support, my stop is going to be at 15 cents below. I
Yeah.
want to get just past the wick, because chances are whenever support was created there, wicks included, if those buyers are gone, the chances of us staying up in that direction are going to go away, and it's going to go the other way. So you have to keep it very tight. And as you said, SPX moves in $10 increments, right? So it happens fast in both directions. Sometimes you will take a nasty hit. Sometimes I don't even use mechanical stops, right? Most times I use mental stops, right? And sometimes that costs me a small fortune. But more often than not, I limit into my trades, I limit out of my trades. And the stop, it becomes, and that's the thing. If you struggle with stopping yourself out of losing trades, you have no business doing mental stops. None. You need to set that thing and you need to leave it there, because that's one of the biggest things that most traders have is, oh, I'll just move it down a little bit more, because the most dangerous thing is never understanding that when you take a trade, you could possibly be wrong.
Mm.
That's the biggest mistake you can make, because if you don't accept the fact that maybe you were wrong, you'll never protect yourself in the event that you are wrong, right? You'll just keep convincing yourself you're right. You'll move that stop lower and lower and lower. Next thing you know, you're down 50%. And then what happens? I'm already down 50%. What difference?
What's another 50%? Yep. We've all been through that.
Yeah. You fall into that mentality, and it's over. You will never shut that trade down until it either it's zero or you get back to zero. And here's the more dangerous part, Mark. If you get down 50%, and somehow it gets back up to zero, you're even on the trade. You know what you're going to tell yourself? You're going to tell yourself, man, I was down 50%. I'm back to even now. Now, hold on. This thing's going to make me money now. Man,
We've all been through that,
oh,
right?
yeah, we've all done it. I've seen it all. And through my personal experiences with trades like that, I try so hard literally every day, even in trades that I'm not in. Did I walk people through trades? Because most people cut their winning trades too short out of fear of going backwards or losing money or not making enough. Right. Part of my job is, and I say this almost daily, helping you find trades worth taking, explaining to you trades that are worth passing on, and how to stay in trades that are worth staying in, and where to stop yourself out of trades that are not worth staying. That is my job, not to take my trades. It is to understand how to read that chart so that you can eventually feel comfortable doing this with or without me or anybody else's help. All right. Teach a man to fish. And if you can just trust that the chart tells you everything you need to know to make informed decisions, you can make trading as close to black and white as possible, right? You can cut out a lot of the gray area, right? If the move that you're looking up is getting weak, it looks like it's not going to make it to your target. There's nothing wrong with taking profits early, right? But if you're in good profit and you're just having a small pullback, just move your stop loss up, right? You, the easiest way to eliminate fear in a trade that you're already up on is putting your stop to break even. The
Yep.
worst thing that can happen is you break even on the trade, right? But we don't do that. We leave our stop low. It gets down in the red, then we move it lower because we were up before. We want to get back up there, right? It breaks your mind. And I try every day to keep people out of that mentality. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's how most traders honestly lose and burn their accounts and stuff. So I agree with you on everything you said, and I want to go touch a little bit on your about your group stuff. So, but before I go there, you and I we spoke. I'm not going to ask you how much money you made. I know, but the public doesn't need to know. But what I do want to know is like that money that you said that you had found money from an old retirement account. How much was it? How much did you start with?
It's that account started with 87,000, I think.
Okay, so you had $87,000 to play with.
85, 87, somewhere in the 80s. Yeah.
So for someone, so you had plenty of wiggle room. It could go two folds, right? You can either blow it all really quick because you have so much more money, so you take more risk on, or or like that's really one of the ways. Or you could actually be conservative and actually be smart about it and just use a little bit at a time.
Yep.
But for someone who's like brand new who wants to get into this and they don't have a lot of money, like realistically, what's a good amount that you can literally start with? And not the challenge accounts, not the $30 to a million or
Okay.
300, but like a real for someone to be able to come in and get comfortable and make a couple bucks and just do the compound effect from your experience in the group that you have and for the people you have mentored and folks you've seen, what's a pretty decent amount that you think people should start with?
Uh, I wouldn't, if possible, I would try and start with probably $500 minimum. And this is not obviously you're not trading SPX at $500,
Mhm.
right?
Correct.
The biggest challenge for me when I did the small challenge from $35 to whatever it ended up, $5,300. The thing that I found between $35 and $300 was a weird phenomenon, right? That amount of money, $300 for most people is I don't care about it money. So if I lost it all, I could just refund the account and start over, right? But you hit a point where it's like $350, you're like, man, okay, so I started with 35, I'm up to 350. That's pretty good. And if it went to zero, I'd be pretty upset because I wouldn't want to refund that, right? You, that number is going to be different for everybody. But where I really started to feel a lot more comfortable about trading that small account was when I got to a point where I could take 2 trades per day somewhere near the money. Okay. Now, I'm not a huge fan of way out of the money trades because your delta's so low. You need a pretty good move to really start making money on those. Can it happen? Absolutely. I'm not a huge fan of that. I try and play, whether it's SPY or SPX, every trade I take is at the money. Everyone, whether it's 10 SPY contracts, 20 or 5 SPX or a single SPX, every single one is at the money because it's as close to a 50 delta as you're going to get. And if the move doesn't go my way quickly, I'm not dying to theta so quickly. You know what I mean? Like, it just, there comes a point where you can hang in the trade just a little bit longer because you're close enough to the money where it's not killing you to, for it to go against you a couple cents or whatever. But on that smaller account, when I was able to afford taking 2 trades per day because the contracts were $100 each or $150 each, whatever. So let's just say $300. Um, you basically get this comfort, and it's not necessarily a positive thing, where if you take a single trade and it doesn't work out, you still have the comfort of a second trade to make up for it. Now, I know that sounds like a revenge trade, right? But if you find yourself taking that second trade for the purposes of making up for a loss on the first trade versus because you see something worth trading, you need to walk away and take the L for the day, right? It's a fine line. But up until $300, I was playing the most expensive contract that I could as close to the money as I could, right? So there becomes a dollar amount where, you know, you're either at the money and that's your whole account, or, you're able to afford to play at the money twice, which I found a lot more comfort in that myself. So I would say $500 is a good price because no matter what, you can be at the money for at least 2 trades per day, and gives you the opportunity to be wrong without blowing up an account and still having buying power to trade again if you need, or wait the next day or whatever the case is. Um, it really gets to a point, when you get in the higher numbers, that you start to think, again, it comes down to us as traders. We look at what's real money at a certain value. It's going to be different for everyone, right? Some people, $100 is a lot of money, right? And I'm not discounting that or making anybody feel silly for thinking that. But for other people, $1,000 is real money. Some people, $10,000, right? So we all will feel different depending on what real money is because of that, right? If I blew up a $35 account, I wouldn't even, it would bother me exactly zero, right? But for some people, they would consider themselves a total failure. I'm never trading again, and you need to know where you stand before you take on trading in general, right? I tell people all the time, like, you can't be in a bad situation with your marriage, you can't be in a bad situation financially, you can't hate your job, because the reason that you're coming to the stock market, if you have any of those things going on, is to relieve the pain or the pressure of those things, which means you're going to be trading bigger or recklessly
Recklessly.
to make
Yeah.
make those better, right? Quicker. So it's not a casino. And if you treat it like a casino, you might get lucky a few times, you might make some money, but at some point your luck runs out and so does your money.
Yeah. And you said that you used to show how much money you made in your portfolio. You stopped it. It brought you, people are like, you're still fake or whatever. And it kind of puts you in this depressive state. Now, as a person who's like brand new though, or who doesn't know who you are and then want to join your group, will they actually see how much you're making right now in the group?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
I tell people exactly what I'm playing, how much I'm paying for the trade, where I'm getting out, how much I show all the numbers.
Like, do you show you like your actual returns, how you've been doing and stuff like that? Are you, are you doing
Yeah.
that?
So just like I told you today, I started at 13,000. Now I'm at 73,000. So yes, I show that kind of stuff. The problem I run up against, and I've got some people, this is where the community aspect of it becomes very difficult, right? I've got some people who don't want to know the actual numbers. They just want to know the percentages, right? And then you got some people who don't care about the percentages. They just want to know the actual numbers.
Hmm.
And the problem is, and I totally get it from both sides, is not everybody's on the same playing field, right? I've built my account to allow me to afford to be able to play SPX at the money with 5 contracts. A lot of people aren't there yet. So they look at, oh, Jimmy made 500 bucks in 2 minutes and it cost him $6,000 to do it, right? Those people don't want to know the numbers. They want to know the percentage. How much did you make on the trade percentage wise? Which is important, right? Because I made 9% on the trade, which correlates to a different set of numbers for one group than it does the other, right? So it's a fine line, and I try and walk it respectively. I don't want to piss people off because they're not at that place yet, but at the same time, I want to appease the folks who are there that might want to know what's really capable of being done if I have an account at this size. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's a weird dynamic. So I used to get roasted on YouTube. People didn't want to see the dollar amount that I made. They wanted to know what percentage I made on the trade. And when I do that, I'd have a whole group of people saying, well, how much did you make? Like what?
Yeah, yeah.
10% or 8%.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's gonna be a weird space, and the reason why I'm asking is because I am by a thought process that if you are running a group, at least in a group, show people like what your real returns are. And the reason why I say that is because again, I've been through so many groups that you don't really know. You can say one thing, right? You
yeah,
can show one thing, but like
yeah,
if you need to be fully transparent, and I think the best way to really approach a lot of things is to show a dollar amount and a percentage. And I tell you why, because I give an example. Recently, I mostly just do I collect premiums now. That's pretty much what I do now, right?
okay,
Occasionally, if I see an opportunity, I will go in there and I will get a call or a put.
right.
I saw an opportunity with WWE. Did a whole video on it. I don't know if you saw it. Maybe not. My channel's dying. I'm joking. But I
Thanks,
got
man. My revenue is in the toilet.
yeah, it's the finance space is dying a little bit. But I got in 2 days and 48 hours, I made 182%. Now I could
Nice.
run with that and keep close and think, I did 182%. And people are like, oh my God, that's amazing. But when you look at the dollar amount, what I made, my total was $275.
Right.
Still pretty good
Yeah.
for the amount of money that I used. But the $275 doesn't sound impressive. I made $275 today. Doesn't sound impressive.
Right.
The 182% sounds impressive.
Yeah.
So which one will I use for marketing? 182%, which will attract again a certain amount of crowd, or people like I want to get that 182% too, because their perception is I made thousands,
Yep.
potentially millions, right?
Yep.
Now, granted, had I upped my contracts, sure, but I didn't have enough money. That's all I had sitting in
Right.
my Roth, so I did that, and I then instead of continuing to use it to trade, I bought shares with it.
There you
So
go.
that's how you should move. So that's why I think it's very important that if you do have a group, you need to show both.
Yeah.
And do you show both?
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, and the beauty of doing it live, and then this is the saving grace for me, right? I tell people in advance because I'll look at an option chart and as a graph, and I know the contracts that I want to buy, how much they were the last time it was at the entry point that I wanted to get into. So I have the unique ability to say, okay, guys, I'm looking to get inputs at this price on SPY. This is the price I'm going to pay, right? Because I can look at historical values and say the last time it was there, this contract cost $1, right? I'll put my limit order in for 99 cents. And I tell them, hey, putting a put order in here, limit for 99 cents at this strike. I wait for it to come back. It fills me. And I'm looking to get out at this point on the chart, right? So I can't hide what I'm doing because I'm telling them before I even do it what's happening, right? I'm getting in here, I'm getting out here. Once I'm in the trade, I go through everything that I'm thinking, that I'm feeling as we're in the trade. Guys, it looks like we're struggling to get down to where I thought it was going to go. I'm going to go ahead and take profits now. Now, the reason I don't want people taking my trades for two reasons. And I have a conscience. Okay, that's number one, right? I trade a private account and a public account. I have two accounts that I trade. My private account does infinitely better than my public account. And the reason for that is because I have to be responsible for nobody on my private account
Hmm.
as I do on my public account. So I'm far more conservative on my public account, which I think is actually a good thing because, again, I'm not a financial advisor and I don't want people taking my trades. But because people are watching my trades, I'm holding myself accountable for breaking rules, right? If I say, guys, you should buy here when this happens, or if I'm going to buy here if this happens, right? I can't tell other people what to do, right? Then I'm stuck to doing that, right? And while I'm in that trade, when I take losses, I tell everybody, all right, guys, I'm stopping myself out. I lost X percent or X dollar amount, right? Same thing when I'm in it. I'm in it. The price of my contracts was this. This is where we're at right now. I'm going to move my stop up. Like I talk through the entire trade while I'm in it, all the way up to when I take my profits. Um, so because I trade on my phone, even though I'm charting on my screen and sharing my actual screen with people during the day, it's very hard for me to actually do an actual live trade because of my phone, right? Now I've ordered all new computer parts and all that stuff, so I'm actually going to be trading on my computer as soon as my video card gets here. But nonetheless, I tell people what's happening before it happens, what I think's going to happen after it happens, and then so the whole process is in real time. It's just I put arrows where I buy calls. I put I put circles where I get out of these trades on the charts in real time, and I explain in advance how much I'm looking to pay and how much I'm looking to get out of these trades. So I'm accountable because I tell them in advance, and it either works or it doesn't work, right? So there's no other way for me to do it, and like I say, every time I've tried to do it a different way, um, it always seems to create a new problem, and that's the one downside to a community of a lot of people, right? You can't make everybody happy. And how do you pick which side to make happy, right? Some people care nothing about percentages or dollar amounts. Some people want to know both. Some people want to know one. Some people want to know the other. And it's like, all right, how do I not piss off the most amount of people? Is basically the fear I live under every time. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. I mean, it's just
Yeah, but you realize, so like I feel like I know you, right? So
yeah.
we've working for like a year or so, but the average person doesn't know you. So what you just explained here is that on the charts, when you say you're doing live, they're not actually seeing you get physically in or out of a trade.
If they're in the voice chat, so no, because I can't do that. But if they're in the voice chat, they hear me prior to getting in where I'm getting in. So basically, I'm telling you, hey, Mark, if SPY hits 401.22, I'm buying a put there.
So, but how would someone know if you're really trading?
I guess they wouldn't, but either way, it's either going to be right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I see what you're saying, and I see where you're going. And when I do get my video card, because I'm building a new computer, I would
Yeah.
be doing that live on Thinkorswim. But
Okay.
for the current point, I can't do that right now because again, I could show my trade logs, which is after the fact. But people don't care about after the fact. They want to know what I'm doing now because let's be honest, they're trying to they're trying to take the same trades I do.
Correct.
And I've tried to avoid people doing that. It's not that I don't have confidence in my trade. If I didn't have confidence in it, and you can ask people in the community, I wouldn't suggest it or talk about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I got you.
I gotta be very careful with the words that I use, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm not a financial advisor. But here's a trade that I would take, so I'm very clear about it. Tell people if we get here, I'm taking this position. If it's a trade that I would take, but I'm really not going to, I tell them. I even indicate it with a different color arrow. I say, listen, this is a good setup, but I'm not going to take it. And that happens when I'm already up an amount of money that I feel like I don't want to risk any of it. Right. And many times that's as little as 500 bucks. I might say, you know what? I made 500 bucks today. Not really a fan of the chart. I'm not personally going to put any of that at risk, but we're going to go ahead and see if we can find good opportunities throughout the day. And then that's how the rest of the day actually plays out.
Yeah. Let's talk about your recap as well. So on an everyday basis, when you do trade, you do a recap on YouTube for the public to see, right? And I, I like I like what you're doing because you walk through exactly step by step, like what your plan is, right? I like the fact that you put the money amount there. I know you said that some people like the percentage. I like the money amount, and I tell you the reason why I like the money amount. And one of the things that I really respected about you is that your returns are not, or the income that you're making off it are not crazy amount of numbers, right? It's
Right.
more realistic, $500. I think your largest amount maybe it was like 1,700 or something like that. Is that right? Or
This year, yeah, I think I made it into $2,200 for one day.
for one day, right? But
Yeah.
most of my notice are somewhere between like 500 and 1,000.
Yeah, yeah, that's my average take on a given day.
Yeah,
Just
which I assume it would also kind of be hard with marketing, right? Because it is a large amount. If you really put it in the bigger picture, the grand scheme of things,
right,
like you probably made that in a couple of minutes.
right.
Fucking amazing. So
I
that's just
agree.
but people rather see I made $17,000
Yeah,
today.
no.
And a lot of times that's when the marketing comes into play, and then you find out they're really not trading like that and stuff. That's one of the reasons I really do like your YouTube channel, and I do encourage people to check it out. It's Trading Decoded. Check them out every day. You pretty much drop a video. Um, but again, you say you don't trade every day, but you still drop a video every day.
No, so on days that I don't trade, I won't make a
You
video.
don't drop. Okay, so there are days that you skip. Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's usually because I'm on vacation. And like you touched on earlier, I feel obligated to the folks who are paying as patrons, right? If I Listen, I ask these people if I'm allowed to take vacation.
Yeah.
I put up a poll because I feel just like you do. They're paying for a service. It wouldn't be right for me to say, you know what? I'm just going to take the day off. That's not cool. Right. But if I go in and say, hey guys, I got a doctor's appointment. Do you mind if I'll ask them when I should schedule my own personal doctor appointments. Right. You guys mind if I take, between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock on Friday? All right. Whatever the case is. I'm very cognizant of that. I respect people's money. I respect, people's time, just like I told you earlier. And because of that, I try very hard to make sure that other folks don't feel cheated, don't feel slighted, don't feel in any way like what I'm doing is not genuine or trying to be helpful across the entire board, right? Whether it's personal advice, trading advice, even all the way down to taking time off, right? I needed at the end of 22, I had a very, very strong put bias, right? Everything I played was puts. It was costing me money. So I asked everybody, hey, do you guys mind if I take the week between Christmas and New Year's off? I need to reset my brain. I need to walk away. I need to stay away from the charts. And nobody said, it was okay. And I needed that. And ever since I came back, I addressed a lot of problems that I had, fixed myself. And I've done infinitely better since. So with that said, time away from the market is often very important for a lot of people. They don't realize it, but it happens to me too. I'm just not in the position to say, you know what? I don't feel like trading today, so I'm not going to show up. Right? I treat this like a job, just like you said earlier. I treat it with respect. I get out of bed every morning as early as I did for my 9 to 5. I prepare my reports. I put all my levels on the charts for everybody to see. And then at 9 o'clock, we get at it. And that's when we start. And I don't walk away until 4 o'clock, except for my lunch break. That's it.
Do you feel like you overextend yourself a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I do. But you know what? How I keep that in perspective is I say, you know what? You would be at a desk job doing the same thing anywhere else. The fact that I do it from home and the fact that, I'm sitting in front of a computer, I was sitting in front of a computer just somewhere else.
Mhm.
Right? That was my job. So that's how I get around the overextension. Now, if it gets to a point where my emotional side is getting to me and it's affecting my trading, because if it's affecting my trading, it's affecting my judgment.
Mhm.
I will kindly ask, do you guys mind if I take a Friday or a Monday? Give me that extra day off. Let me reset. So that's how I deal with that. And I told people the other time, I don't know if you noticed, but I do offer now an annual subscription. And this is the safest thing that people know because I get asked every day, Jimmy, how long are you going to do this before you retire? I said, listen, as long as I have annual members out there, one of two things is going to happen. Number one, I'm either going to pay out the rest of what they don't use if I stop before that year is up, or I'm stuck here for at least a year to make sure I make good on those annual memberships, right? So again, I respect people's time. I respect people's money. I'm not out to take anything from anybody. That's why it started as a monthly membership instead of a lifetime membership. Lifetime members who stay and get disgruntled end up being a cancer in a community. I don't want you paying for more than the time you want to spend here. It's that simple. If you choose or believe that an annual main membership is right for you, I offer you a small discount for doing so. But it's the same thing day in and day out. And I don't think you'd find anybody who will tell you otherwise, which I take a lot of pride in, right? I take it very seriously. It's very important to me that people are getting value for what they're paying. And
You
that's
definitely do. And here's one thing I noticed in your group, and it bothered me a little bit, and I'll tell you what it is. Um, there's times when you're like, you would trade or you're like, you know what, I'm done for the day. I don't see anything. I'm good to go. And you still sit and you still sit by the computer and you still, I guess, throw trade ideas out there. Why? If you don't see it, if you're done, if you're like, you know what, I think today's not a day, we're done. Why not just walk away? Why still sit there and throw some potential plays in there or help people? If you're done, everyone else should probably be done too.
as much as I agree with you, Mark. Just like that community mentality, not everybody feels the same way, right? I have to understand that a lot of people can't trade in the morning like I do. They
Mhm.
because of their jobs or because of whatever circumstances, right? Different time zones. They can't start because they had to drop their kids. Whatever the case is, right? It's not fair to those folks who can't start until after I'm normally done. What would be the value in me stopping when I'm done for those folks who can't start until after I'm done? You know what I mean? So, as much as I agree with you, because there have been people who have suggested that I promote over trading, right? And as much as I'll be the first one to tell you anything more than three day trades in a day, which that's my max, I would say is too much, right? But at the same time, I also say if you don't feel comfortable with a trade, regardless of who's telling you that it's a good idea or not, you should never take that trade. Right. So just because I might suggest or see 10 trades worth taking in a day, if you don't see that as a trade worth taking, then you shouldn't trade it. Right. So should you be punished because I only saw 10 or I only saw five or I'm done for the day? And, you didn't feel good about the five that we talked about. So you didn't take any. I don't want to leave people out in the dark like that. And again, that goes back to you're paying for a service, you're paying for value, and I try to provide that regardless of my benefit or not. Right. It's just I feel like it's the right thing to do. I totally feel why the question you asked. Trust me. I tell people all the time, guys, I got in. I feel fortunate about the money I made. I don't like this chart at all. I'm not going to trade anymore. I'm very clear about that.
Mhm.
But if I see something that potentially I would trade, if you guys want, I'll let you know. But I'm not trading anymore. I am very, very clear about that. And Friday after lunch, in fact, right leading into lunch, most people had made a decent amount of money because of the crazy drops we got up and down. And I said, "How do you guys feel about taking the rest of the day off?" Not a single person in that vote said no. So I got a half day on Friday, and I feel like most people did as well, which is an amazing feeling, not just for me because I get to take a half day, but because that means people made money. They were happy with the day. They get to walk away. I'm a huge promoter of get in, get your money, and get out and walk away. But the problem is, most of these people have day jobs. They don't have anything else to do but look at a chart.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, looking at that chart becomes more temptation, which
Yes.
leads them to continue trading, right? So I
Correct.
say it all the time, dude. I'm like, dude, you've made your money. It's guaranteed money. Just walk away. Walk away. Shut it down. Go to something else. I say it all the time, but
Yeah.
people don't listen to me.
Yeah, I'm laughing because everything that we talked about here at one point or another, I did. So I've done it. Oh, I made $500.
Yeah.
I'm done for the day. It's like 10:30 at 11. It's open again. It's open. I'm like, let's chart. See, I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
I tell
Um,
people all the time, you running out of buying power shouldn't be when you stop trading.
exactly. Yeah,
You just
just
got to
close
close
up.
up good. Man.
Yeah,
All right.
close up for it because there's been days where like I killed it, and then by the end of the day, I lost it all because of just the greed and not
And I've
walking
done it.
away. And it's a terrible feeling, and it also messes with your mental, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
your mental capital and just being exhausted from it. And if you're constantly taking losses, eventually you're gonna walk away and just quit because it's like,
Yeah.
what's the point at that point? Also, what I'll notice about your group, which was stand out amongst everyone else, was that I don't know if you still do, but you used to do free trials.
Yeah, still do.
You still do. You were
Sure.
like, I don't know any other group, and maybe it's just me from just being oblivious. You allow people to come in, watch your group for 7 days, see if they like it before they commit.
Yep.
That's ballsy. Why?
Because I don't want people to, and I don't even ask for anybody to sign up in advance. Like literally the day you join our Discord community, you're automatically granted full access for the full 7 days. And because if I were a consumer of a situation like that, I'd feel uneasy about entering payment information in advance. I don't want anybody to feel like they've got to risk anything. We're trying to find out if they think that a service is worth paying for or not. So when you jump in, you get all access. We'll treat you just like anybody else who's a paying member. And it's either something that you enjoy or it's not. And no hard feelings, right? You don't even have to leave after the trial. You just would lose access to the paying side of it. Um, you could stay in the server, but for that full week, it's the same as if you were $100 member. If you enjoy the commentary, you enjoy the style of trading, then by all means, jump in, become a patron. Otherwise, nothing's lost for anybody. You don't have to worry about nothing. It is what it is. You know what I mean? I just I don't. I'm trying to remove any apprehension or any fear for what goes on in here, whether it's through my YouTube, because you could say, you and I can agree that I could talk all the shit in the world, right? I could sell Trading Decoded, but it's not going to mean anything until you jump in there and see for yourself. So I invite everybody, anybody, go ahead, use the free week trial. There is nothing to hide there. Everything you see while you're there for that week is the same things that our paying members see every day. And that's it.
I love it. 'Cause I think that's why a lot of people stay in your group. And I think that's why a lot of people are really attracted to you. Every once in a while, I still get some DMs from folks. They're like, it's like, I give you shout outs occasionally before we did this interview. And people are like, dude, I really love Trading Decoded. It's like that was a good one. Unfortunately, you're in a space that has a lot of grifters. A lot of people take advantage of the community. And that hurts because there's an ocean full of trading groups. And it's such a small percentage that are legit or really trying to help people. A lot of them are just a quick way for people to make money and then disappear. Like I'm seeing it right now, even like on YouTube. Look, I try to take YouTube serious. It is a hobby. But I also shifted my content somewhat, right? I do multiple different things, stuff that I'm interested in beyond just finance.
Right.
But one of the reasons why I did that is because I saw that the finance space is dying.
Yep.
The views are going down, the AdSense dollars are going down. People are more and more people are basically becoming scammers and people are finding out that they're scammers and
Yep.
FTX happened and all this other stuff. So it's very hard to stay legit in a business full of scumbags. And you're one of the few ones that I really like that I rock with, and that's the reason why I wanted to bring you on because I don't plan on bringing many more traders on my channel to speak about it because I don't want to promote it anymore.
Of course.
Because I think, especially since the bear market, a lot of people have learned that most of these groups do not know how to trade. Because again, 2020 was amazing.
Yeah.
2021
Or else
was
you
amazing.
can accidentally make money on 20.
Yeah, yeah. Like literally in 2020, like I was like, man, this shit is easy. Like I am awesome at this until I can't do the same thing when the chart is basically reversed. That's all it really is. At the end of the day, it's reversed, but for some reason it's
Yeah.
more difficult.
So
Because
I like in September of 2020, I was one of the only people telling us that we were going to go back down to 350. I got actually kicked out of a group for that. Um,
wow.
Oddly enough, we came down to 350 in 2021.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a few people. I know Mo was also one of the guys who told me I think it was 2021 as well. Yeah, it was November 2021 because I actually got into his group. I met him around October, but he was like, dude, why you keep buying leaps? Call leaps. I was like, no, man, this is what I'm used to. He's like, stop. I didn't listen to him. I was like, "Ah, yeah, who the fuck are you, dude?" It's like, I mean, you're a trader, but I think I know better. And he was very much right. So at one point, I need to step away. But with this market and what's happening right now, and I've heard not too many people have said this, but I heard you say it, and I've heard Mo say it. Pretty much, it seems like a lot of the legit people are saying this. this has probably been the hardest time to trade in a long time. Do you agree with that?
Easy, easily. The problem, it's easy to trade a market that's got a pattern. It doesn't matter, right? If you're day trading or swing trading, it doesn't matter if that pattern's up or down, right? The only people that get hurt are long-term holders in a bear market, right? And if you have the time to hold, eventually, I'm not a bear at heart. I do believe in this
Mhm.
economy and its market's eventually going to get up back to all-time highs and higher, right? But in the meantime, I wouldn't hold a long position if my life depended on it, right? And then that's because not that I know anything that other people don't know, but when you've got a Fed who doesn't know how to fix the problem. You've got a government that will accept that there's a problem. You've got markets that have no idea what the resolve for the problem is going to be. They don't know how to deploy the money in a way that would allow a trend to take place. Like if you look at a 1 year chart, it's not very pretty right now, right? We were up 14% at one point, and we just kind of keep getting below a 1.5 year trend line, and sometimes we're above it, and it's just all over the place.
Mhm.
But with that being said, I do say on a regular basis to the folks in our community, if you can learn how to trade a market like this, you will be bored out of your mind when the market understands what it needs to do going forward. Up or down, it doesn't matter, right? Just like you said, in 2020, you could literally buy calls in the morning, come back near the end of the day, and just cash out of your calls with profit. You didn't have to watch it. You didn't have to worry about it. And most of the time, you'd be profitable. Some days had down days, but that's just the way the market was, right? But those days are gone for right now because nobody knows. I don't even think anybody could tell you what the actual problem is, right? Are we having a banking failure or are we not having a bank failure? You've got Bank of America and you've got JP Morgan, huge institutions opposing each other. One says we still got 30% down to go. The other one says we've already reached the bottom. Don't worry. And so how are you supposed to be informed or how are you supposed to feel good about saying, you know what? The market's come down. I think, let me just deploy my capital for a long-term hold and maybe I can retire going forward. I don't feel comfortable with that at all right now because I really don't think the market has any freaking idea what is going to happen. So
Mhm.
until I'm not going to sit here and say that I can call the bottom. I don't know where that will be. We may have already seen the bottom. I don't
Mhm.
know, but I am not confident in that if I just dumped 50 grand into the market, that I'm going to be okay 6 months from now. I firmly believe we still have more room to the downside, earnings recession, and God forbid we actually have a dollar collapse, which I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that, but that could be a real concern here in the near future. And if that happens, it's a whole different ballgame. Currencies don't last more than 50 years. We're on year 51 for the dollar. Put that in
Yeah.
perspective.
Even empires don't last forever either. Genghis
That's right.
Khan.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't feel comfortable about deploying long-term capital. I will trade the chart for what it is on a daily basis, up or down. I don't care. But as far as because when I think we found a bottom or we find a direction, then I have a nice chunk of money that will invest in a few companies for long-term holds. Right now, I don't think we're there.
so are you saying, as in long term, like you're not doing leaps options, but do you buy shares, or do you mean you're not buying shares at all either?
No, right now the only long position I have in shares is fifty Amazon shares, which I got those at 87 bucks. I haven't been right on that trade since. So that thing wavers between being up 600 bucks or 750 bucks. It depends. And I keep considering, hey, next time it gets over 700, I'm just going to take my profits and I'll buy low again and do it all over again. But that's the only position I have. And that was when we were pretty low it was this year. But going forward, I'm going to buy Tesla. I'm going to buy Amazon. I'm going to buy Apple, you know, Google, pretty much only 4 or 5 different stocks. But for right now, I've got the kids and my wife, which unfortunately we made too much money last year, so I can't have Roth IRAs for myself anymore. um, I'm trying to roll it into a Roth 401k. But uh, as I told you before, I'm doing full JEPI in one, full XYLD on the other. And then for the third account, I'll do a 50-50 mix and see where the thing goes. But that's
So, so right now in your Roth, though, you don't have, like you were saying, like you're eventually gonna buy Amazon, Google,
uh,
Tesla, whatever. Why don't you just do SPY or SPX or VOO, VTI, SPLG? Why don't you just do any of those?
uh,
Just ETF and call it a day.
because tech has taken such a beating, and I just feel like the returns there are going to be greater. And I know Spy and all of those aren't going anywhere, right? They'll be around forever. But I also
Usually, you want to capitalize more on the higher upside of some of these individual stocks when
right,
you have opportunity for it to go up.
yeah,
Got it. Yeah,
yeah.
but a
Now,
little bit more risk. But again, you're like you said, your family is pretty much set for the future, so
right.
you
So
have an ability to.
it's different. It's a different arena, right? We're in different ball games, different arenas, different situations. So again, like the dividend thing, I know it's a horrible idea supposedly, right? But what if it works? Has anybody actually done a full Jeppy account for 25 years? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
I know.
Typically, no. I'm just saying, on Mark from On Culture Currency does not recommend Jeppy long term. So I am not supporting this. I just want everyone to know I do not support his decision making here. All right. And I'm telling you, I don't trust it. I do not trust Jeppy.
Fair enough, and I respect that. And again, the point to my videos is not to convince other people to do it. It's just to share what I'm doing.
What you're
Uh,
doing and being
yeah,
transparent. Yeah. And just,
yeah,
and you're
and honestly, again, because I'm in a different situation, I feel less afraid to try it, right?
Mhm.
I still think that no matter what, even if the dividend price drops or whatever the case, there'll still be value in the shares, right? Regardless, right? So if the growth's slower, then that's the downside to me trying this for my kid's account. But nonetheless, for 25 straight years minimum, we'll be maxing out a Roth IRA, right? So regardless, it's like a savings account, and you put $6,000 a year in, right? So now, if Jeppy looks like it's going down to hell, I will sell out of that position. I'll be very clear about that. But the reason I like Jeppy personally, and I don't mean to make this a dividend video where we don't have to get into this, is the high yield currently in a monthly, right? So in a Roth, being that you're limited to 6,500 a year, he's making another $1,600 a year at zero risk currently, right?
yeah,
Jeppy could go down, who knows? But we're going to see how it goes. I will moderate that account as needed. If Jeppy starts to tank share wise, I will get out of that trade immediately and deploy it somewhere else. Right? I'm not going to jeopardize my son's future for the purposes of YouTube, if that makes sense.
absolutely makes sense. And as a person, um, who is in this space, again, you're trading, right? That's like your thing. And I know that you were saying earlier, people are saying, why don't you try this volume trading or let's try this other strategy? And you're like, no, right? But on your platform, when you're in your group, you have three strategies that you share, right? Support resistance and 9 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one more, I feel like. I forgot what the other one was. But
Probably
you,
Blackberries.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
okay. But you specifically do support and resistance, right? That is what works best for you, and you don't deviate from it because it works, right? Because I'm sure people probably ask you, "Why won't you try, Apple? Or why don't you try Microsoft? Why don't you try something else? Why don't you try to trade Tesla?" And you seem to be under an impression like, "Why change something if it works?" Correct?
For me, yes.
Yes.
I'm a very simple person. I think different than most people, right? And one of my favorite things to tell people is knowing that 95% of people fail in this business. My goal is to teach people how to think like the 5%. Right. If you do the same thing that the 95% of people that are losing are doing, you're going to get the same results. Right.
Mhm.
If and I need to be very clear, the way I trade is on a daily basis. I'm not looking for diversification because I'm not investing long term yet. Right. So when I say SPY moves enough and provides enough movement for me to make the amount of money that I need to be to pay my bills, I don't see the need. Although my method works on anything, the only thing I would never trade is penny stocks. Okay.
Okay.
With any kind of technicals. It works on Tesla. We have people that do it on Tesla. It works on Apple. It works on Google. it works all over the place. But SPY, I like the idea of it being a broad general ETF. So it's not a single stock, it's a bunch of stocks, right? I can watch other things that would tell me whether that single stock, whether it's ADD, the Qs, if they're trending in one way, there's a good possibility that SPY is going to trend in the same direction, right? So I like the idea of keeping it stupid simple, uh, without, creating a analysis paralysis, right? That's why I don't use extra indicators, right? If I got something that makes me hesitate to take a trade, then I'll either get into that trade too long or I'll miss the trade altogether, and then I'll watch it do what I felt like it was going to do in the first place. There's
Mhm.
nothing more frustrating. That puts you in a different situation to where on the next trade, you're going to be super aggressive and say, I messed up the last time. I'm going to take this without even thinking about all the reasons and end up hurting yourself. Right. So my philosophy and its tagline to Trading Decoded is think different, win different. Right. Think different, win different. If you think like everybody else, you're going to get the same results as everybody else. So I'm trying to break that mold. I trade with zero indicators. It seems to break people's mind, but they can't understand a chart without indicators. Whereas I look at indicators and say, this is horrible for me. I'll never try to talk you out of trading without indicators. If you use indicators the right way, which is as a source of support for an opinion you got yourself, fine. But if you're looking for indicators as the reason to take a trade, you don't realize that they're lagging, you're going to cost yourself money.
Absolutely.
Use them as support, not as a reason. That's it.
Absolutely. And since the other question I have for you, especially since now you have a bigger account, is there a reason why you're not getting away from options and instead you could use the same support and resistance you have and just buy shares instead to minimize the risk of theta, delta, gamma, vega? Is there a reason why you haven't got into that or even collecting premiums like what I do, like doing cash secure puts or cover calls? How come you don't pivot to that, minimizing even more risk?
So again, and that's a great question. And this I get the same question, but in a different form. People ask, why don't I trade futures to avoid the theta and all
Or
of
even
that?
that, yeah, even futures, yeah.
And and this is where my thought process differs from most, right? Most people look at options and say, the limitations on this are why I don't do well with them, right? Whether it's theta, delta, X, whatever it is, right? I use those as the reason to take the trade and not stay in the trade. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So the limitations that they provide are the motivation for me not to hold and hope.
Gotcha.
And and that's where I'm different, right? I could probably make a killing trading futures because I would employ the same exact thing that I do day to day
Mhm.
without the worry of decay. The
Correct.
problem is decay is what limits my time in the market, right? I look at that different. If I don't have that limitation, I may be more inclined to hold my trades that I shouldn't be longer, right? And then I risk putting myself in that, well, I'm already down $50. What difference does it make if I'm down 100 or 1,000 or whatever that number is, right? I respect the dangers of trading. And as a result, I don't stay in my bad trades too long. I fall off that wagon sometimes. One day I took the biggest loss of my public life because I said, screw it. I'll just wait and see if it comes in my favor. That was the biggest loss I took in a given day. Right. I think it was 2,700 bucks, whatever it was. But at the end of the day, I look at things the opposite of most people. I look at the limitations in the confines of contracts as the reason for me to take my entries and my exits within a very specific time. Just the other day, in fact, on was it Friday? No, it was Thursday. I took a trade where I wanted to. I felt comfortable about my entry. It didn't get to where I wanted to go in a reasonable amount of time. I was like 8, 9, 10 minutes into the trade, started to get uneasy about it. I actually asked our community, guys, I have the opportunity to get out of this trade even minus contract fees. What do you guys think? And they said, probably break even. So I got myself out of the trade even. Now, 2 candles later, it went right to my profit target. But the fact of the matter is, I get uneasy when things don't work out the way I planned them. And as a result, that's the reason I've developed the mindset to get out if it's not in my favor, if it doesn't do what I want to do when I want it to do it. And other people would say, I'm going to buy next day expirations so that theta doesn't get me. Well, are you really buying it because your expected move might take a day and a half to get there? Or are you doing that because subconsciously you don't want to admit that maybe you just got a piss poor entry? Or maybe you're not really sure if the reason you took the trade was the right reason, right? When I take a trade, I am 100% confident about it and I go in. Like there's no hesitation and you have to be that way. And you're either going to be right or you're going to be wrong. And you need to be able to execute on either side of that immediately. Uh, the confines of contracts make me feel that in real time.
Thank you, Jimmy, man. This was good. We spoke for over 2 hours. Actually, oh wow, 2 hours and 20 minutes. This went by a lot quicker than I expected. Trying to keep it down.
Chopping up to do, buddy.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to release it probably as is. We'll see. I mean, I'm gonna, do my usual editing and stuff. But Jimmy,
Man.
dude, thank you so much for coming on. This is a long time coming. I really love your group. I wish you a lot of success. Where's Jimmy gonna be 5 years from now, though?
5 years from now, I'll still be doing what I'm doing, regardless of my financial situation. 7 years from now might be a different story because it's when my wife gets to retire. When my wife retires, I may enjoy um, all the money that I'm attempting to save and squirrel away for now. Um, you know, Here's another thing I'll tell you because I think it's important. As you know, in this YouTube world, right? In the digital era,
Hmm.
it takes the right person to say the wrong thing to ruin everything, right? I live with the fear of that every day, right? I'm not hiding anything, but if the wrong person has a wrong day and they have a following, they can go out and say whatever they're going to say, whether it's true or not, and the wheels can fall off this wagon, right?
Yeah. Mm.
My fear is that that happens, and not for the financial side of it, but for the fact that what it did to me the first time that happened, right? I live under that fear because I'm trying so unbelievably hard to avoid that being the case ever again. Um, I genuinely care and truly want to help people, but I've made it very clear. I said, regardless of income, how big this community is, whatever the case is, I'll never just walk away from it. I would give everybody a solid year in advance saying, hey guys, I'm finally to a point I could retire. I could trade for myself 2 hours a day and live the life I need to live. Right. The problem is, who am I going to share that with? My kids who are in school, my wife who still goes to work every day.
Hmm.
Right. And for me to retire my wife, which I could do, I'd be robbing her of a pension. God forbid something happens to me or we get divorced. She's only got 7 years left. You know what I mean? Like to say, trust me, I tried to tell her to get out, but then she was like, "But I only got 6.5 years left at this point. Um, what if something happens?" And then she's right. So as much as it pains me for her to continue to be a teacher, uh, 6.5 years from now, she'll have a full pension. And regardless if I'm in her life or not, which I plan to be, she has income coming in, right? So I'm good in this situation for doing what we're doing as long as people will have me. Again, going back to that, whether it's worth my time or not, I'm going to be trading for the next 7 years. It's whether it's within a community or not. If it's not within a community, I will make everybody whole one way or another, whether it's through my time or giving money back. And we'll see what year 7 brings us when I can actually spend retired time with my wife.
That's lovely. Are your kids interested in this too? Yes,
I
no.
No, well, one of them
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
right? So my youngest son, Logan, he's actually to take your child to work day, he's gonna be sitting with me. He is mesmerized by stock charts, right? But and I'll say this too, because I'm a firm believer in it, because I would do it the same way if I was younger. For younger kids, younger adults, people who are under 25 years old, I would not promote day trading as a living. I just wouldn't. Not that you can't do it, not that you can't learn it. However, there is no more consistent income than your day job. And with that, you can afford to put away without missing the money, enough money at an early enough age to retire a millionaire by the time you're 59 years old without effort. I would 100%, and that's what I'm doing for my kids, right? Trying to set them up to be wealthy at a time of their life when they're still young enough to enjoy life, not when they're fucking 65 years old. At that point, you're starting to have health issues. You've worked most of your life. You don't get to enjoy that time. You can do the same thing if you're just wise with your money at an early age. So for my kids, as much as I would teach them if they wanted to know, I would more likely tell them to save your money, invest your money over time, and you can retire by the time you're my age with zero stress, like literally zero stress. Right. I would like to believe that I'm going to leave my kids a lot of money, but God forbid something happens. I have a massive health problem. Whatever the case is, my inheritance might not outlast me or my wife to give to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I just need to make sure that my kids do what I didn't do at the time I should have started, whether it's me doing it for them or them learning how to do it. So I will teach my kids to invest and save for the long term more so than trying to trade every day.
That's good.
That's
That's absolutely a good thought process, because I've been trying to teach my kids not necessarily trade, more how to just read, to chart technicals. And I've been really harping on them about just being financially literate and personal finance, because like you said, if I had a time machine, I would go back to my early 20s and say, stop spending money on strippers and alcohol and doing some things on a strip. It's like, if you're going to spend money, at least travel the world. Jesus. So,
grow your horizons at least. But
at least something, man. Do something instead of traveling just to the strip to waste hundreds of dollars.
Exactly.
It is what it is. But hey, Jimmy, tell everyone where they can find you one more time.
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Trading Decoded. I have a website, www.trading-decoded.com. And we have a Discord community, which is in the link of our YouTube videos or on our website. And that's that. So I'll be starting a podcast here soon. I'm actually working on a book as well, which is a motivational book. So it's different from trading, not just trading related at all. In fact, it's nothing to do with trading. It's all motivational. So I think most people will never do what they want to do out of fear of failure. And I think that motivating people to think otherwise is a good thing. So.
Hey, you're definitely a good motivational speaker, because in your community as well, every day you're like, did you have a green day or a red day? And you have everyone vote. Or you're like, I didn't trade day. And then when it's red, you're like, we need to hop on a live right now.
Yeah.
And then you go through and you start motivating people, and you could actually that could possibly be your next venture, man. You never know. Do public speaking engagements, selling motivational books. You're good at it. You got the voice. So you're awesome, dude. Listen, I like you, Jimmy. So everyone, make sure you check out Jimmy. Again, his YouTube channel is Trading Decoded. He posts almost every day. Go over there, subscribe, support this guy. And if you want to try a trading group, again, 7 days free trial, you can't beat that. So if you don't like it, and if you don't think it's worth $100 a month, you don't see no value, then just cancel, and there you go. That's it.
Right. You don't have to cancel. Just you don't have to do anything.
Oh, yeah, you don't do
no signing up. You just jump in there.
Exactly. So everyone, once again, thank you for tuning in. My name is Mark. You're watching Uncultured Currency. See you guys in the next video or podcast.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay. I just got cultured.